All right, let's get into it. So we do this every raid, so I'm going to give a little bit of a disclaimer beforehand. This is not a super accurate tier list, right? For something to be accurate, you would have to come from a place of knowledge, right? And high testing. And then you would have to have that individual source rank everything against each other, right? That is not happening. What we're talking to is a bunch of people who are specifically knowledgeable about the things they're talking about, and that's why we're calling them. But they're all ranking things arbitrarily against each other. For example, you might have two people that know a lot about their class, but one person's an optimist and they're going to rank their thing high, and the other person is a pessimist and they're going to rank their thing low, or maybe they're in the middle. And then you do that with like 20 plus people, and it ends up being super jumbled and not important. The tier list part of this is not the thing you should take away from this or be important. Why this content is good at all is to hear people talk about their class, how it changed, what they're excited about, and what they think needs to be looked at or fixed. And it's like purely informational, and the tier list on it is just for a little bit of fun, and it makes more people click on it, and which gets that information out more, and we get more views. So let's figure out the tiers first, though. We're going to move away from this. If you guys have paid attention to this, we basically did a new concept during farm. That's not what we're doing right now. This was, as soon as they announced 10.2, we did a weekly update with how people feel, how they feel about the changes they're reading, right? So for example, your class could have been really strong last patch and really strong this patch, but you could be in because really nothing changed, right? It's more like how happy you are to read about the changes to what is happening to you. So we need to figure out some tiers. I am going to go back to Swamp Ass. I have not used Swamp Ass in a while, but I had an interesting interaction with a Blizzard community manager when I was down at Blizzard a couple weeks ago, and he told me that because of me, his elementary school or like middle school, like 5th or 6th grade class does tier lists and uses Swamp Ass as the bottom one because he thought that was funny and taught that to his kid or nephew or something. And I just think that's ridiculous, because I made him clarify, because I'm like, there's no way kids watch my stream. They don't care about WoW, right? But yeah, so he told me that, and I was like, damn, I'm a bad influence, so let's do that again. So, and then we'll go back to roots. We'll do DDD, which stands for Deep Dick Dolly Dumpster. Don't ask about it. It's all good. And then we'll add more rows below and above if necessary, but we'll just start with this. All right, so we're going to start with tanks. We'll get through as much as we can today, but we're going to do tanks and healers first. We'll do tanks, healers, melee, range, not necessarily in that order, but they'll each be like separate. The DPS ones take a lot longer because tanks are kind of required to play them all. Healers are kind of not required, but it's understood that they need to like understand them all, and I can find a good person to do all of them. DPS is much more specialized, so I'll probably call people there. Also, I haven't given anyone notice that they're to be here for this, so I'm just going to cold call people. So let's start with Dorki. All right, we are calling up Dorki, an amazing rank 1 or former rank 1 Mythic Plus tank, TGP enjoyer, and famously lost world first to a pen. Calling him up. Hello? You need to fix your mic? Okay, that's fine. Yeah, we had an offer for Dorki to come tank for us last raid, and he wiped on the pen phase. He lost to a pen. Oh my god. Bro, Dorki's just, his mic is just totally brick.
Yo.
Oh, okay. Hello?
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 Oh, hey.
Hello. I just introduced you. Also, I forgot one thing. He is the esteemed co-host of Pod EC, the newest and hottest podcast, who's doing a episode with Asmongold tomorrow. It should be fun.
Yeah, I'm also an expert at tier list, PhD. This is my 4th tier list I'm doing. I've got 2 more coming down the line.
I'm assuming you've probably talked about like Mythic Plus tanks, I'm sure, already. All right, well, you know the deal. This is Mythic Plus and Raid combined. It's really weird to rank these sometimes, as chat knows. Like sometimes a tank is like absolutely bis in Mythic Plus. It's the only thing you care about. But then in Raid, they're not as good, so they're like a little bit low than you think. Oftentimes at tanks, it's usually both, I think, except for like DK is randomly always like sick in Raid, but then whatever, Mythic Plus. But oh yeah, get your dorky ASCIIs out there. But yeah, we're gonna start. I'm trying to think how I want to put this actually. So I probably want to have like the overall PTR notes to like just at least hover over the changes that happened while you're talking about it. But where do you want to start, Dorki? Which tank?
Let's do bear tank since it's dog shit.
Okay, 1 second. Let me fuck. Is this the thing that has the changes? Oh yeah, it does. Okay, so Guardian Druid was really meta, I think, for the first time in many years. Maybe since think Nighthold in or Tomb of Sargeras in raiding and Mythic Plus, were they ever meta in Mythic Plus before 10.1?
No, but they had like, moments where they were good here and there.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So what is your what happened to Bear? What brings them down in your opinion from last patch?
So for Mythic Plus specifically, their rage generation, damage, and overall survivability is heavily nerfed. It's mostly because of the tier set. But also the Blood Frenzy nerf was massive, especially for larger polls.
Okay.
I mean, you said it yourself, right? Like last year, Bear had a chance of being played in Raid because the other Druid specs were pretty bad. And you 100% want a Mark of the Wild in Raid. And for M+, it's pretty big too. It's arguably the biggest buff for M+.
Oh, that's actually an interesting thought. Do you think...
Yep.
No, I think you're right. I'm trying to think, what is close, do you think, of like a singular buff you can bring? Is it Monk? Because Monk brings the healing, the avoidance, and the... But I don't think like healing matters as much, right? And it's fizz damage.
Yeah.
Something like that.
I would say for Raid, it's got to be Chaos Brand. I mean, Chaos Brand is massive.
Yeah.
Maybe Arcane Intellect. But
even then, I think
massive.
I think Chaos Brand, if you look like the breakdown of your damage in Raid, I think it makes Chaos Brand equal out to roughly about a 3%. Like usually it's about 60% of your damage is like affected by Chaos Brand, maybe a little bit more. But then Mark of the Wild gives you the damage reduction element too, right? So it's like just way better. Yeah, it's way too OP.
Increase healing.
Okay, so you would where do you think it stands this? And this is sad too, because you're an OG Guardian main too, so you probably enjoyed their time in the light. I think one thing that might be kind of nice though, about like one small benefit is while their mass AoE got nerfed, like the feeling, which it is a huge nerf, like feeling wise, because like you don't get nearly as much CDR on Incarn and you can't spam nearly as much. But like at least I think up to 5 targets, it should feel better than it did last patch, right? Which was something that felt noticeably worse.
Yes and no. I mean, yes, that part will feel better, but you're missing the tier set, which gave you a ton of generation. So it's, I would say overall still worse, but a little bit better than what it was in the early PTR cycle.
Okay, so where do you think this goes?
So considering how good the other Druid specs are and how specs generally cannibalize each other, I feel like this has to be Swamp Ass. Like,
wow.
Normally I've been saying, Guardian's pretty decent. It's not bad. Like now, like in the previous few tier lists, I've always put Guardian extremely high. I even said it was DDD once. But man, I don't know if there are any real redemption to Guardian, really. I mean, especially if we're considering Raid too. Like if we're talking about just M+, then like sure, maybe like B, possibly B. But if we're counting Raid as well, I mean, there's no shot you ever play this tank in Raid. At least, like, you wouldn't really want it when you would rather have a Boomkin.
Yeah, I guess one thing that I'm thinking of is like I feel like Guardian on its own as a standalone for any content. Obviously, everything in the game is always viable. You don't have to say whether it's viable or not. It's just like you would be fine on a Guardian Druid. I wouldn't say Swamp Ass. It isn't necessarily in an accurate description of their power level. It's more like their place in the meta almost, right? And it's because like they are so negatively affected by other Druids just being maybe more desirable, right?
Especially Boomkins. I think like Boomkins are so good next patch. So like Boomkins kind of just eat Bear's position in Raid or even N+.
Yep, raid buffs are very problematic. Yeah. Okay. Where do you want to go after this? I don't know if you. So you started at the ass of it all. Do you want to keep going up from the ass, or are you? Where do you want to go next?
Yeah, we can go up from the ass, I guess.
Okay. Which one next?
Yeah. Okay. Hold on. Let me think about this. What goes up the ass?
Stop.
Probably Brewmaster.
Okay, let me find it. All right, Brewmaster Monk. Talk about some of the changes.
Brewmaster didn't really give much change, but the tier set is the biggest change, I guess. And the new tier set is, it's like really good in M+, but it doesn't really stand out in Raid. Like it doesn't really do that much in Raid. It's based off of like the amount of damage you do and how many targets you're hitting. Obviously, like the more you're hitting, the tankier you are, the more defensive you are, or the more damage you do too. But I mean, I would say it's like definitely pretty solid in M+. And for Raid, like obviously it depends on the other Monk specs, right? Like
yeah, the other Monk spec
dog.
this patch, yeah.
Yeah, like Windwalker is complete dog, so Brewmaster definitely has a better spot there. but people have been hyping up Mistweaver, and I don't know. I guess like it just depends. Like, are you gonna really play a Mistweaver in raid? I feel like maybe, probably actually. So maybe Brewmaster isn't as valuable.
Okay, so you're
So
saying
I
that
would
like
say,
you think you'd put it in a tier, but the fact that you think that Mistweaver might be played more would knock it down one, because it's just less
yeah,
likely
yeah,
to be
yeah.
needed.
Right. Yeah, because like historically, you've always seen Brewmaster just because like you're not gonna play the other two monk specs. Like who the hell's gonna play a Windwalker or Mistweaver in raid? But if you are gonna play a Mistweaver, I would probably put this in like B, I guess.
Okay.
Like it's decent, but it's not like wow, this spec is amazing.
Okay, so upper B for that, and I'll keep that in mind for when a lot of the other classes come down. All right, this is what I think a lot
Yeah.
of people are excited about. The old Blood Death Knight, the old trusty, most fun tank to play with a few changes this
Ooh.
patch. Good tier set. What do you think?
Yeah, primarily the tier set is like big. This tank does a ton of damage. They've buffed this tank a bunch over like multiple patches from like, beginning of Dragonflight to now. And the tier set is like a good bump in damage. It's got pretty high uptime. It's like also pretty decent defensively, especially in like a raid type encounter. In
Dude,
AoE it's like not as amazing, but yeah.
they
Pretty good.
finally did. Like, I think we were talking about this for the whole expansion, like, because Blood DK's damage was so bad, but then I swear for, like, 2 or 3 straight months, every week or every other week, they just, like, buffed all of their damage by, like, 5 or 8% or something, and I remember us talking at the time being like, bro, if they just keep doing this, they're just eventually gonna fucking own. And I think they just got buffed enough and then got, like, a good damage tier set at the right time to... Like, when was the last time Blood DK cranked damage, right? It's been a long
Shadowlands,
time.
yeah.
Yeah, Season 3 Shadowlands. Yeah, I guess that was... I guess I forgot about how broken that was. I almost considered it like a different thing. Yeah, the and Gavel. And now they'll get a legendary this patch too, right? I think the only tank spec that's gonna have that.
Yeah, only tank spec. I mean, we're not gonna see the legendary for like what, at least a week or two until like probably until the race of Warforce is over. Then we might see the legendary, but until we get the legendary, we don't exactly know how much more damage it's gonna do. But right now, it's like a pretty damn high damage tank, especially in M+. But for M plus specifically, I think it'll fall off at some point. I mean, it's the same old
Always
Bloody
does,
K, right?
yeah.
It's immortal until it's not. But I mean, I feel like this would probably see play in raid, especially once people get the legendary. So like for your cutting edge guilds, hell, even like your average guild, they'll probably eventually get a legendary on the DK. So it's got to be like pretty high up there.
I mean, you have
But
to
maybe not
think. I think when you're
necessarily
talking
for
about the
M+.
legendary, should we assume it's gonna be like Gavel power level? Like, do you think that's fair, or was Gavel almost even like more strong than I don't know? Like, I'm trying to picture it. Like, if you think Blood DK is like really really high, and then they get a legendary, if Blood DK were to be at their current power level and gain Gavel, do you think they would be Bis? I don't know.
I mean, the way I've been treating the legendary, because everyone's always asking like, oh, how do you think it's gonna be with a legendary? I like to just look at the base power level of his class and then just like give it a small bump and just give it like benefit of the doubt and see how it goes from there.
Okay.
So I think if we were gonna include legendary, probably like A, possibility of like DDD, but I think A is like pretty fair.
Okay, so there's a chance for DD. I have a question for you. You mentioned like the old problem that Blood DKs always have, where they're like sick and raid. Once they get going, it's like super fun and it's really deterministic on whether you're alive or not, and they're very powerful. If you could fix their fatal flaw of keys scaling up too high and them having to live the first like couple seconds without them being like turbo broken, I think you had a cook about this recently, right? Like how they could make DKs. What was that?
Give them some DR. Give them like maybe Bone Storm would become a thing, and
I love your Bone Storm take. Describe that.
Let them dump resource, or I should say RP specifically, into getting some type of DR, especially a DR that scales with the amount of targets, because the biggest problem with DK is like if you're fighting 20 targets, you're just gonna get smacked and you're just gonna get destroyed. Like anyone who played Blood DK this season in Freehold, for example, a fortified Freehold, if you pull 10 plus mobs, you're just gonna get clapped eventually. You just cannot really live without major defensives. And so I feel like the best way to help with this class is by giving it something that scales well into more targets. And what about something like making Bone Storm viable?
I was it you who had the cook where like they change Bone Storm into a runic power spender, so you have the ability to like spend runic power not for the immediate heal of like Death Strike because you don't always need it, but it like gives you that kind of passive heal from it and also allows you to spend runic power on AoE damage. I heard a cook like that and it was fucking awesome, but I don't know if it was you or not.
It was like a little bit of me and Dratnos. I think
Yeah.
Dratnos said something along the lines of that too. But yeah, I mean, on one hand, it's kind of like homogenizing the class a little bit, just because like it becomes all right, you can spend on healing or you can spend on DR, which is kind of what a lot of other tanks have, right? Like on
Yeah.
Pro Paladin, you can spend on Shield Righteous or Word of Glory. On Pro War, you can spend on Ignore Pain or Shield Block, and well, not really, but yeah. Bear Tank, you can spend on Frenzied Region or Iron Fur. The list goes on. But Bloody Kid doesn't really have that. Bloody Kid just has like Death Strike. Okay, that's your only RP spender. It'd be nice if it had another RP spender that was like, Bone Storm gives you DR and you can just activate it, and instead of like healing as much as Death Striking, you get a bunch of DR from Bone Storming.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be kind of cool.
All right, we like that. 3 tanks remaining. We have where do you want to go next?
All right, up Vaz, right?
Yeah.
Probably. Wait, we only see 2. Where's the other one?
Wait, am I crazy? Prop Paladin. I just don't think I put it at the top.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Where the fuck is Prop Paladin?
Bird roll.
Oh, yeah, good call.
Yes, I would say Pro Warrior's probably next.
Yeah.
Yeah, Pro Warrior. Pro Warrior is actually insanely good. The tier set is super good. Their tier set gives them a bunch of damage. It consumes the bleeds, and then they also buffed it at one point to make it so that it consumes the entire Thunderous Roar. Because at one point it was only like 40% of the Thunderous Roar or something, however much it was.
Yeah.
And it does like a good chunk of damage, especially on single target. Like the tier set's probably doing like what, 14 to 17% of your single target. I can't remember the exact number. It's a lot of damage. Defensively, it's also massive. Like you just permanently have between 10 to 14, 16% DR, so around there. So that's a ton of DR. So it's just like passively much tankier, a good bit of damage. I feel like it's like pretty solid in M+, but not exactly the most powerful one in M+. But I mean, in raid, it's like, pretty good too. I don't know how the DPS warriors are looking in raid, nor do I really know how Pro Warriors will handle raid damage.
There's a lot of magic damage in this raid, right? That's always like Warrior's biggest issue is like when there's consistent magic damage, it just feels bad. Not to say like we have played Warrior in the race world first in raids where they have been terrible defensively just for like small optimizations overall raid wide, but like this one defensively, I think specifically for Warrior that you are always scared of magic.
Yeah. Like you can make it work, but it's not like DK where you just let them do their thing. Like DK, just let them do their thing. They're completely fine. They're like super good almost always. I'd probably put in like B, like right around Brewmaster. That kind of like makes sense because they're both kind of like solid, and it just depends on
raid buffs. Yeah,
raid buffs and all that. We also did nerf Rally.
Oh yeah, I guess that's something to talk about in this because I think that's always mattered. I don't think it's mattered in Mythic Plus really because there's just so many better things of utility than Rally. But like in raid, it's been so insane, and Rally just got absolutely cut from the game. It's just completely. It's not completely not important, but it's just. I would say the way to look at Rally for me is before I looked at a really, really hard boss, I looked at what could kill you, and I brought a certain amount of rallies, and I literally brought them for Rally and hoped they were good. And now I don't think you would ever do that, and I think you would just, if you play them and they have Rally, it's nice, but it's only if you were to play them anyway, which is like a total difference maker, yeah. All right, so we have so you said B, you think like behind Brewmaster probably?
Yeah, probably like somewhere around there. One of them's ahead of each other for sure.
Okay. Guys, I didn't kill Rally. I never said shit about Rally. All right. Okay, here we go. We have Prot Paladin, which was... I think Prot Paladin has had such a weird trajectory this expansion. It was so good in Season 1, but they kept everything that made them good in Season 1 besides their tier bonus, and they were just outshined in Season 2 by a few other... tanks, and like specifically I think it was really showed you how impactful tier was. Like if you don't end up getting a good tier bonus as a tank, you're kind of just not going to be good enough, which is really weird. But like Paladin has the same utility it's had now, has like a better tier set. What is your opinion on Prop Paladin this raid or this patch?
Yeah, so like as you've mentioned in first patch, really good tier set. Second patch, not so good tier set, so it took a massive hit. This patch, the tier set is annoying to play with, as I mentioned when we first saw the tier sets. Like it entirely revolves around your consecrate. It's got a lot of like annoying quality of life issues where you like might accidentally replace your big consecrate, etc. It's like super annoying, but it is very powerful. It does a ton of damage, like on overall damage in M plus. The 4 set alone does anywhere from like 8 to 10%, and then the 2 set it's like another 4 to 6% on your consecrate damage. So overall, it's a ton of damage, one of the most damage out of the tanks, and defensively, it's also really good. I could also see it being played a lot in raid just because of how powerful their utility is, and it's a second paladin to bring an aura. Because like you're basically competing with a red paladin or a holy paladin because it's very nice to have 2 paladins in your raid, one for devotion aura and one for red aura. And I feel like prop paladin would be one of the tanks you would want to bring for that. Also, spell warding's been insane for most raids. It's insanely valuable.
Yeah.
Even like sack and the off healing. For M plus, it's also extremely good. It's one of the better tanks. Overall, I would say it's probably the closest to DDD, but I don't really see any tank in particular being DDD. So
For both
if I put
combined,
in the
yeah.
highest A.
There's probably
Yeah,
a
yeah.
DDD tank for Mythic Plus, but if you're combining both, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I kind of fuck with that. I will say, do you just so we can talk about this here because I think this will be worth some kind of developer feedback. How do you feel about consecrate gameplay on Paladin? I absolutely fucking hate it, but kind of similar with Death and Decay, but like I don't know how you feel about it.
I think it's just too much strength in Consecrate. Like D&D is bad, but it's not as bad as Consecrate. If you're out of your Consecrate,
You're
you're
just dead.
basically dead.
Yeah, you're dead.
Yeah, it's like close to 30% DR by just being in your Consecrate. And that's insane. It's super clunky because it requires a global. I feel like if they were to do something to just make it easier to play with, it'd be fine. Like maybe just remove it off of the global or somehow make it follow you or I don't know, just make it so that like if you move out of consecrate, you retain your consecrate buff for like another 5 seconds after or something.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw my like class feeling tier list thing where it was just like every week I updated it on like how classes were feeling going into the patch, and I just made an objective decision to move Paladin down 1 per week just because Consecrate thing was still in the game, and I just think it's so not fun to play around. But hopefully they look at that. It's probably a little extreme, being a little dramatic, but that's fine. And then the reworked Vengeance DH. I think they really got like big changes for the first time in a while. What is your take on this class?
Yeah, this tank is completely different from season 2. I would say like completely different in general. It relies entirely on sigils. It's insanely good. I would definitely put it as the strongest tank overall, like individually. It just does really good damage. The tier set is insane. The whole sigil playstyle, like every time you permanently have sigil flame on the targets, and you're essentially parrying for 20%. So it's like half of a DRW permanently, and the utility is insane, especially for M plus. The fact that it has 2 silence sigils, 2 fear sigils, 2 sigil of chains is ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, I think Demon Hunters group CC this patch is probably twice as good as any class in the game and way more than any tank. Like, just absolutely crazy CC ability. I don't know if, like, I think it's kind of cool, right? Like, I mean, as a tank, you must feel like a god, right? Like, you can just control everything. Like, it's probably really fun, right? Like, I imagine you have a lot of fun playing it, but I wonder how that's going to play out for sure.
I was actually talking about this with Gingy yesterday. I was saying how, well, he was also saying the same thing. Like, if you're a pug tank, being a Vengeance is amazing. You have so much agency over your own survival, and you can just control everything by yourself. Like, you could literally just go into packs. It's like, oh, fuck, man. Blizzard decides to add 4 kicks in this pack and multiple stops required. But if you're just a Demon Hunter, you just do it all by yourself. All right, pull it all. Silence Sigil, Fear, Silence Sigil again. You can grip them for stops. You have Chaos Nova. Like, you can do everything by yourself as Vengeance. It's like such a good pug tank.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will say though, Vengeance, like the utility in raid is like probably not as useful. Like I don't know if there are any fights where Vengeance is gonna have like some crazy utility. If it does have like some crazy application of like Grip Sigil or Silence or whatever, then that might bump it up. But if it for raid, it's just another tank. It's just another tank that provides Chaos Brand, and Havoc Demon Hunter is looking extremely good. So I don't even know if you would really care all that much about Vengeance in raid. But it's still a really good tank.
Dude, one thing I want to say about this is Demon Hunter in general, but certainly a Vengeance thing. Bro, is Darkness like the best dungeon like damage reduction ability ever? Like new Darkness, like that is insane. Like there's gonna be some.
Oh, dude, it is so insane, yo.
There's some mechanics where, you know, Darkness isn't great for it. Like ones where it does, you know, it's like one hit in 10 seconds and it does almost all your health and you have time to heal up from it. So like if you dodge it, it doesn't really matter. But like just any kind of consistent multiple ticks kind of large damage. I mean, it shits on everything. It's 50% better than Barrier, basically. Like that is absolutely ridiculous. And as a tank, as a personal too, like on like the biggest pulls, it would be fucking fat.
Yeah, it is insane. Like there's been times where we're doing like a massive sword pull in a Tal'Dazar, and you know how you can't snap him anymore. You just go in there, drop a darkness, and you just hear darkness do like 2 million healing, and
Yeah.
it is actually insane.
Yeah, what a world. All right, so you have to choose somewhere to put it. I'm kind of hearing what you're saying. Like I put it near the top of A. I'm assuming your thought is if this was Mythic Plus only, and in Raid, if there was just as many silenceable and grippable things, it would be at the top. But you think that Raid takes it down one, or do you think it's in the top?
Yeah, I would say it's like top of the top for M plus, and then just like somewhere in the middle to top for Raid. So probably like equal out to around A.
Okay. All right, that's good.
Yeah, because like.
Do you have any like overall thoughts about tanking this patch before moving on, or do you think you've gone through most of it?
I would say tanking this patch honestly feels pretty good, but I don't know how much of that is attributed to augmentation, because you know you always have an augmentation in a group, and augmentation makes tanking feel much better.
Yeah.
But like, you know, that's just the augmentation effect where like, oh, you know, your class feels good with an augmentation, feels like you can actually tank stuff. But then like without an augmentation, do some of these classes kind of just fall over? Yeah, I would say like maybe tanking can be a little bit rougher without an aug.
Yeah. Okay. So aug, I mean that's just kind of the aug thing, right? Is that it's just way too impactful for healers and tanks. Like the fact that they're doing the same amount of damage as every other DPS, or before they were nerfed more, and then they're also just buffing everything else in your group. Yeah. But we've had our talks about aug. We'll probably do that another time. But yeah, I know what you mean. All right. I need you to guess what you think the meta Mythic Plus. This is up until 10.2.5, right? Because like as you saw in 10.1, they could like totally fucking change everything in one patch. But like as it stands in 10.1, the first couple weeks of Mythic Plus, what do you think the tank that is meta is?
Wait, 10.1?
Or 10.2, sorry.
Am I being held hostage?
Yeah, you're being held hostage, yeah.
Wait, was this for Raid or M plus?
Mythic Plus only. Best singular tank in Mythic Plus in the first couple
weeks.
weeks.
Easy. Oh, okay. All right. You were pointing a gun at my head, but that's easy. I mean, that's just a Vengeance.
I was not. There was no gun. You said it's Vengeance?
It's just Vengeance. Yeah.
Too much damage, too much utility?
It's everything. It's on top of the world right now. There's no way Preservation was quadruple D, but...
Yeah, we moved it down.
Plus, absolutely.
Okay, so Vengeance for Mythic Plus. Got it. Okay, yeah. There's no gun involved whatsoever. But there is they're going to give you $1 million if you get this right, and you have to guess what the exact two tanks are in the world first kill of Firac. What are they?
Okay, so Blood DK and Pally.
Blood DK and Pally. Okay. What's your reasoning behind that?
Yeah, Pally because it's OP and the utility is huge. It's also the second Pally. I don't think you're gonna bring a Red Paladin.
Okay.
Blood DK because it's just all around strong tank, very tanky. AMZ is nice to have, and I don't think you'll need any of the other tanks. Like, there's no way you're gonna play a bear. There's maybe a chance of Brewmaster.
Who's the Druid then? If you're not bringing a bear, who's the Druid in the comp?
Oh yeah, put Boomkin in quadruple D. I mean, Boomkin is
you think
so
Boomkin's
good.
sick? Okay.
Yeah. Like it's literally one of the top damage in all content and all damage.
Okay.
I'd be so unless they nerf this class. Boomkin is like supremely powerful in both Raid and M plus.
Okay. And then we have and you said warrior, so you think you're running a DPS warrior then if you're not running prot?
Yeah, maybe. That's where I'm like a little bit.
It's for $1 million, man. You got to make sure all your your I's are dotted and your T's are crossed. Why did I say that? That's some old shit. Never mind. Just ignore it.
Can I call in a DPS warrior? Or we'll come back to this later when DPS warriors show up. But for now, my bet's on Prop Pally and DK.
Prop Pally and DK.
And put Boomkin. Put Boomkin up there.
I can't do that yet. I got to talk to one of those guys.
I am a Boomkin. Yeah, I play Boomkin.
You play Boomkin?
Yeah. In one of my videos, it was me playing Boomkin, and then people got mad at me.
Why'd they get mad at you?
I said Boomkin was good.
Bro, Boomkins are okay. All right, you did good. All right, thanks, bud.
Yeah, just remember this. Chat, you guys too. Remember this whenever they talk about Boomkin.
Thank you,
Yep.
Dork, and you guys can find. I mean, you guys know Dork. We'll be on. We're doing a
Yeah,
podcast
wow.
tomorrow with Asmon, which should be fun. So I'll see you then. Which I have to figure out the when I'm gonna go live and do things tomorrow. But yeah, we'll figure that out. All right. Thanks for the talk, Dork.
Holy Asmongold. All right, see you guys.
All right. See you later. All right. So we usually get the tanks and healers out of the way first. We are gonna do healers next. We did JB last time, but this time. I'm going to do Automaticjak. I messaged him, and I think he's around. So Jack's been I think he's really good for this because he looks at all the healers for Raid and Mythic Plus all the time. It's part of his content. And he has a... Where is this? Jack is reinventing the thumbnail game. Where is this? Bro, his thumbnails are out of fucking control, bro. The Mythic Plus guides continue with the Taldazar. Look at this Waycrest Manor. Like... You gotta give it up for the thumb. Just absolutely going hard with the thumbnails. So definitely make sure you follow him. I'm gonna call him up for a second. And just for reference, we don't usually bring on 6 healers for all the different specs, or 5. I don't even know. I think it's 6. We usually just have one person do it. Again, it's as much as you can. You would like to have one really knowledgeable person talk about all the DPS, even if you could. It's just there's very few people who could even do that, and most of them aren't even. Like, it'd probably be like me or Stripe, because or Mirez, who, like, spend our time knowing exactly how good these things are in different things. But, like, no, none of those people are going to do it. So it makes way more sense to actually have people from each individual class. Plus, they can give some more specialized feedback on, you know, what they need to change, which we wouldn't be able to do. So let's call him up. I think he's streaming. I'm just going to call him, and hopefully he's there.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, what's up, man? Do you know what you are tasked to do today?
I heard talking about healers from you, and that's it.
So what we're doing is I'm gonna have you go through all of the healers and a combination of Mythic Plus and raids. This is kind of the outlook on PvE in general. I think I've seen you talk about them for specifically raid and Mythic Plus, but this is like a combined thing. Also not super serious on the ranking part, but just kind of a talk or an ability for you to talk about the strengths and weaknesses of a few of the healers and your opinion on them. Do you understand the assignment?
I understand the assignment.
All right, which healer do you want to start with?
Wait, what's this top bar? This DDD?
Yeah, Deep Dick Dolly Dumpster. It's not important. It means it's really good.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, let's start with preservation, because I think this spec kind of just does everything really well.
Okay.
And when people are talking about like the negatives of like Prez being that it competes with like Augvoker and like keys or something like that, or having 2 evokers in a key feels bad, I feel like that's such like a weak downside for it. When there's already a ton of bleeds, a ton of like different dispels that Cauterize can be used for.
Well,
survivability just owns.
I think something that's interesting for Evoker in general is people talk about raid buffs and like how, you know, oh, you have to bring these things or one of everything to like get the thing. But then if they were to remove all the raid buffs in the game, what you would do is you would, not to say that wouldn't be a bad thing, I would like that, but then you would just bring the things with the most stuff, you know, like historically Paladins, you know, Druids with Roar and Innervate, and then this expansion, which you haven't had to think about this because of raid buffs, it would be Evoker, right? Like a pound for pound of bringing a second of any class, Evoker probably brings more than like every other class in the game from like just what they bring on their class alone. So the whole, yeah, I completely agree with you. Like the whole like, oh, preservation is down because these other things are here, bro. If you're adding an extra Evoker of any spec to your raid, and it's like viable healing DPS, whatever, like that is like one of the best choices you can make on like a purely value level. So yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, they just like own overall, and like when people are looking for a downside, they're like, oh gosh, like oh man, like it's such a weak like thing for it. So I think they're definitely gonna be like one of the best.
Okay, and that is for using raid and Mythic Plus.
Yeah, 100%. Like having pretty much all the content, all PvE content. I think that they just bring excellent things for the raid and M+. Their survivability is fantastic. Their output's fantastic. I think when I was talking to Volk and UT, some like the theory crafters and guide writers, there's this like class talent that they have on the far left side where after you cast like Blossom or Embrace, your Living Flame is faster. And they're talking about like weaving between Blossom and Living Flame in raids to be able to farm up more Essence Burst for, you know, more Blossoms basically. And even saying that like Living Flame's kind of a meaty spot heal as well now. So if that like the buzzword of this tier being spot heal getting buffed actually becomes a big thing, well, they have resources to do that. They have, you know, output for days that they can store up and crank later on. Rewind's still a good CD after nerfs. Like, they got it all.
All right, where do you think they go?
For just like a general PvE, like overall,
Correct.
Yeah, quad Ds. Yeah. if not A.
Oh, wow. Okay, so yeah, well, I mean, you can obviously, after looking at all the healers, you can put it down or up, but that's a banger position. All right, Preservation Evoker's looking fucking crazy.
Yeah, well, we'll go over at the end maybe.
Yeah, we'll go over it at the
Yeah.
end. So I think something that's important that Dorki did is like Dorki put Guardian at the very, very bottom, and his reason for that wasn't that Guardian on its standalone value is that low. It's that he feels like they lost a lot of power from last patch from tier, and then also that you are likely to bring other versions of Druid instead, and that mattered for his position. And I think the way you're looking at it is just pure standalone power, but as you mentioned, that Evoker you might be less likely to bring, even though they have a lot of individual utility that is not based on bringing one of them, like, you know, they may be less sought after because other things exist. I mean, specifically in Mythic Plus, right? Everyone knows AUG is like the shit. So, like, are you less likely to bring a Preservation of Mythic Plus because you may already have an AUG in the group? The answer to that is definitely yes. So, like, regardless of how good they are, that's less true in Raid, right? But just something to think about. So we'll leave it there for now. And we'll give you the option at the end of doing all of them to like have more context and put them wherever you want.
All right, sounds good.
All right, the next one on the list is Disc, so we can just start there.
All right, let's go with A.
Just right off the bat, Disc and A.
Let's go with A. They have a couple like minor downsides, but overall, I think they're looking like super powerful.
Yeah, they made some good changes. They made them like more. I think they're less like one-trick ponies now too, right? They have the ability to like, like at least on the healing side of things, and their damage is obviously crazy.
Yeah, their damage is like super insane. I think even seeing like, oh, barrier like got nerfed or whatever it is, but I don't think that's going to be like such a big deal. The way like symbol getting halved in value or like salvation getting nerfed were like really big for the spec for Holy Priest. I think the like downsides that Disc faced or like the headwinds or whatever that they face this tier are like really minor. The way that they've like simplified it so you can get your damage out more quickly without all the extra setup of like stacking modifiers and buffs and stuff like that is like totally fine. How you can mix around your pet, which is containing a lot of your output, and you have two different ways to use the pet, whether it's going to be like a shorter cooldown and less powerful Shadow Covenant or a longer cooldown and a more powerful Shadow Covenant, is a really good way of manipulating it for raids. So that way you're going to be able to like, oh, this fight timer's weird. Well, like that's fine because I can manipulate my pet in its cooldown in good ways.
Yeah, good. And then I think, and then obviously their damage, huge component. What they bring,
100%.
What they bring through PI and their damage. Yeah, you mentioned barrier. Barrier, before and after the nerfs, barrier has been the best raid cooldown for, I mean, since MOP, I think. So like, this, it's just always been the best button. So then that's still the case. Other things got nerfed way harder than that. So yeah, okay, they're in A. Oh shit! I just realized I should have asked Dorki something. Remind me to ask you something before the end of this after we're done talking about classes.
Yeah.
All right, do you have any other thoughts on Disc before we move on?
Couple people might note that the like nerf damage like 2-3 weeks ago or something like that for Disc, it's still just crushing everybody else in a raid and still doing like obscene amounts of damage there. In keys, it does really good damage. I think preservation might be a little bit ahead of it. One thing where people would be like, why isn't it in like triple D tier at the very top? I think in keys, one of the headwinds is that they don't have an interrupt. And the way that PTR testing was working was like the mob health wasn't scaling really highly. And so people are going through this like crazy combo of crowd control with like VDH and Boomkin where they shut down all the mobs for like 30 or 40 seconds. But because the mob health was near nothing, all the trash packs were just dead. So you never really got to a point where you needed a lot of interrupts. But this dungeon season does feel very interrupt heavy. And we're probably going to need to have things like Prop Pally or VDH shutdowns and really high keys. And so if you ever get to a point where you're running out of these like group-wide stops, then Disc's lack of a kick could be more of a liability.
Okay. Yeah, and just for something for next expansion, I really wish they would change that. I know when they're adding hero talents back into the game, there's like been PvP talents and hero talents are shared. If PvP and PvE were separate and talent trees, they're not. But if they were, priests would have absolutely gotten dispersion as an option and silence in their class tree. No question. They absolutely would have. So in PvE, for sure, priests not having an interrupt when everyone else does is still super weird. I don't know if they've been asked that in a interview or not before, but that it just seems like something that's missing. So yeah, I would like them to look at that without it, shaking up all of PvP as we know it, but I don't know.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Yeah. What about Holy?
Holy faces a lot of headwinds this coming tier. Where
Bro,
like,
why are you saying headwinds so much? Where did you?
I don't know. It's like downsides, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. Okay. I just want to like. I mean, sometimes I do that too. I like hear a word and then I'm just slamming that word for a bit. I did it with gratuitous a while ago. I was slamming gratuitous a lot. Okay. I'm just sorry.
I think.
Yeah, you're good.
No, you're fine. It's like a business stock thing because I was like looking at like Activision stock for a while with the buyout and everything. Because remember like 2 years ago when I made like a video about like buying Activision stock and stuff. I think you watched it.
Bro, I have no fucking idea, but yeah. So that's where the
that's
headwinds
one thing they
came
talk
from.
about. Yeah, they're like, oh yeah, like they face headwinds and like this or that thing. But yeah, like Holy had Symbol go from a minute of personal cooldown reduction to 30 seconds. They had 30 seconds of cooldown reduction for each Holy word, with Salvation to like 15 seconds. So you're probably only getting 2 a fight instead of the crazy 3 a fight. Their tier set got nerfed a couple times. They're like probably like a B, I would say.
Dude, they nerfed the fuck out of Symbol, man. That spell. I mean, you could argue that Symbol was probably too good. I don't know if that's quite. I would say it was like pretty.
Okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
Symbol is too good in this expansion because damage is like crazy bursty, and so everyone's defensives get better.
Yeah.
When it's all like crazy burst damage, you know. That's my thing. Because if they go into next expansion, we're gonna go in with like next expansion Symbol, and hopefully they fix healing and all the other burst damage problems we've had, and then Symbol's gonna feel like a lot weaker.
Oh, dude, Symbol. I mean, I think it's half as powerful or something. Is it 30 seconds?
Yeah.
Let me.
I think it went from a minute to 45 to 30.
Yeah, I mean that's insane. That's like really huge nerf. So okay, B. I'll put it like probably middle of the 2 tanks in B, not too high, not too low.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The other thing is for like the average player, you're going to be able to like be very successful with it and all of that, but like the most competitive areas of content is probably where it's going to fall behind. Definitely for M+.
So especially as a priest, a main priest for a really long time, I have a question for you. So for a while, Disc has been like there was years where Disc was better than Holy, but it was probably still a better idea for almost all healers to actually play Holy in their guild because it was significantly easier. Do you think that with the Disc changes, looking to curb a little bit of that, would you still give that advice, or do you think that Disc is more approachable now?
Disc is a bit more approachable now, but I don't know if I would still put it at that point. I still think a lot of people would probably just prefer playing Holy especially because you have to stand still for such a long time and you have to, hit your ramps consistently for your output. I think if they extended atonement duration, and made some like other quality of life improvements, then it could be more accessible for people. But the downside of like making the mistake and then like killing your raid because you mistimed your ramp or just getting killed yourself. Like there's plenty of people who can execute a ramp well, but like also doing mechanics and not getting hit by 50 lava waves under a shock like is a huge deal.
Yeah. And there's a lot of bosses like that. Like just looking ahead to the raid specifically, not as much about the Mythic Plus patch, but like all of the hard bosses this tier are like crazy dodge fights, which is good. I'm a big fan of that. But yeah, that's definitely relevant for this raid. All right, cool. So we have gotten through the priest specs and Prez Evoker, currently Prez on top. Let's go to the very recently extremely overpowered Holy Paladin in both Raid and Mythic Plus for since 10.1.5. What is your opinion on I think they've been nerfed every single week since that came out, Holy Paladin going into this patch?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, now I'm getting all the ads about Holy Pally propaganda. I still think Holy Pally is going to be like around the A or something like that. I think they still bring so many like really good tools for like raids and plus the profile. I think a lot of Pally players are really dissatisfied for like where their output comes from because it's all these different like weird passive effects, like their new reverberation, which procs after your glimmers refreshed or expires, feels really strange. But having it come from like passive glimmers and like other passive side effects that don't actually feel like your Holy Shock is like directly pushing up health pools in a powerful way, the way everyone loved like BFA and Escapable Torment, that stuff's pretty dissatisfying. But like the toolkit, what they bring, particularly for keys, but like also, Devo or Mastery, they're still good buttons,
Okay, so no headwinds for Paladins then currently, or like do they face minor?
Their damage is
turbulence.
bad. Their damage is weak.
Yeah, how the fuck did that happen? I remember, so
Yeah.
like I like wasn't paying too close attention to it, and I remember we were doing like a testing, and like we were using a disc in the testing, and we were using Dryny as Paladin, and Dryny, I was like, Dryny, were you like out of range of the boss or something? Like what the what the fuck is going on here? And he's like, no, dude, they just have nerfed my damage every week for like 2 months or something.
Yep.
So yeah, he is down tremendous on the damage. I also think it's so weird this expansion how healer damage was actually relatively pretty balanced at the beginning of the expansion, right? Like 30-second Nature's Vigil for Resto Druid made them like really relevant single target in raids. Like Resto Shamans didn't do as much active, but if they were to pure cast, they would beat everyone. And then like priests were where they were, monks were probably a little bit better now than they were then. But like I feel like healer damage has somehow gotten so off from a point of pretty good balance, which is pretty weird.
Yeah, we'll talk about that when we get to Resto Druid too, because they also got fucked over on their damage as well this patch.
Yeah. All right. Let's go to Resto Shaman, the other Resto.
Okay. Their output feels and looks really good for the incoming raid. I think that they look and feel really bad for the incoming season of M+. I think they're probably going to be around more of a B section going forward. I think people are really dooming a little harder than I think they should for like a raid.
Oh, as always.
Yeah, like as always, yeah. I think that you'd be like those doomers, unless they're spreading propaganda, right? Like you're going to crank output as Shaman, and like Slink's pretty good for some of the fights that we have incoming. Some of the fights are a little awkward for it, but you know, when we're trying to get everybody together on like Tindril and have like a couple different stack points for all like the roots together, being able to make sure health equalizes quickly, effectively, things like that are always just good to have on hand.
What do you think about the playstyle of Shaman?
They're messing around. Last time I talked to Thune, with like occasional chain.
Is that how you
heals,
say his
especially when
name?
they get... Yeah.
I'm so
Jfunk.
fucking bad at no. Just keep going. I always do this.
I just said Thune when I shared a house with him at BlizzCon, and he didn't say anything to me. So
I've been calling him
that works.
Thune or Thun or something. Never mind. Just keep fucking.
He's really chill. So I don't think that he would have the heart to correct me if I did say it wrong. So I don't know. But yeah, anyway, like they're taking advantage of like occasional chain heals, and they hit really hard, do great output when you have all of like the buffs and modifiers for it. There's like High Tide and like another one I forget the name of, which is on the lower rung, but they're good. Besides that, last I heard there was a lot of like feeding more heal waves into like the Riptides to just build up some like half decent cloud bursts, and like being forced to like play into cloud burst even though it got heavily nerfed. I think that was about the last time I saw it, where a lot of shamans were unhappy about how they had to play with it. But it still is going to be able to like crank out, but when you are properly playing around the tier set bonuses and stuff, and it's like I said, it seemed to do really good output when I was seeing it in testing.
I feel like shamans are due for a tier where they're fucking insane. Like forget playable, forget briefly meta and Mythic Plus, forget like I'm talking like when was the last time Resto Shamans just absolutely cranked in raid and you weren't bringing them for like weird Spirit Link Ankh Totem stuff?
Battle for Dazar'alor?
BOD, yeah, but even then that was like some battle shaman shit too. Like there was a little bit of that. Yeah, but okay, I kind of see what you're saying.
A little bit. Well, there was like the fights that were really good to have the Ankh Totem on hand as well, where like using it on Rastakhan.
Oh no, yeah,
like,
Nathria they were good, right? I think,
yeah, they were pretty good in Nathria,
like,
but like my memory is just Spirit Shell there.
Oh, actually, I fucking forgot about Spirit Shell. Yeah, that okay, so very, very, very okay. Yeah, man, if you were to judge by community reaction, I would have assumed it was Swamp for sure. But I appreciate fighting against the dooming. There's always way too much dooming for sure.
But that's the thing is like healers in particular, it's all about like knowing when the damage is going to happen and like how you react to the damage and things like that. Like as much as people want to doom about that kind of stuff, it's like if you just play well and know when damage is happening, you can get super far in any content.
Yeah. Okay, we have 2 healers left. We have the Mistweaver Monk.
Mistweaver is going to be great. Mistweaver is going to be great next season. They keep
Wait, what is he DMing you to tell you to do? To like sandbag it?
He's telling us sandbag and spread propaganda.
I mean, dude, okay, I'm not even gonna be mad at that because Mistweavers specifically have been going through this cycle of like we're gonna be the best, and then they're like sick for all of PTR testing, and then it all comes crashing down like right before the patch. I think this has happened like 4 or 5 times in the last like couple expansions. So I actually respect the propaganda. Yeah, you got to do what you got to do.
Dude, they buffed their damage and everything last second as well. I was even seeing in the last test we had one Monk was playing Ancient Teachings in raids, and they hadn't really been playing it in raids, but they were doing crazy damage and like really competitive healing. And then Swaggles was even looking at it afterwards and was like, oh, they could do it even better than that. So, I mean, if you're able to weave in a healer that's cranking near disc levels of competitive damage in a raiding environment and bringing in really good like output on top of it, might as well. And also their spot healing and the output they need onto prio targets is insanely good.
Okay. Where do you think they go?
I think they're probably around Paladin.
Probably around Paladin. Okay. Damn,
Yeah, I would say
preservation's
probably
looking
around
insane.
Paladin.
Yeah, also for what it's worth, I wouldn't recommend, if this is true and Mistweaver monks are really, really powerful or whatever, I wouldn't recommend that they nerf them, because I think there really hasn't been a tier where they've been awesome. Like, they've been good, they've been usable, they've been brought, but they, like, very similar to Shaman, where they haven't been awesome. There's like a couple times in like that weird haste shit, was it in Nyalotha? And then they had, I think in Sanctum, they had some crazy shit too, but that was like more farm. Like, it's never been progression. At least top level progression.
What's the German guild, the top German guild name? Oh, Version, yes. So Version ran Mistweaver and all its craziness in Sanctum.
They're turbo dead now, right? I think. I think they are, but keep going.
Yeah, but like they were, I don't know, top 10, I think, in Sanctum, and they were the only ones to run a Mistweaver at like that high of a level. But it was cranking then. But obviously, like the double pally, double disc tier we had in Sanctum was unstoppable. But yeah, during farm, everybody was like cranking super hard. And then Nyalotha, when you had crazy haste, you would put up all these really effective hots and then extend them forever with your kicks and stuff. But yeah, Mistweaver looks like it's just cranking damage, doing great healing. Seems to have, you know, at worst, one build, which is this like caster weaver type setup. But even then, like, I kind of want to see if that like damage focused build or the Ancient Teachings build could actually work out pretty well. Because in the one test that we did, at the very last second after they buffed its damage, it was cranky.
Mm-hmm. All right, you have one healer left. The healer that used to have cooldowns and now spawns a bunch of trees. What do you think?
Oh, actually, one last thing with Mistweaver. Sorry.
Oh, yeah? You're good?
They also increased its survivability quite a lot, its passive survivability, too, with Bounce Back. It's like 40% DR that you can have on like 10 or 15% uptime just from like taking hits. Like that's going to help in keys a lot. Its kick is really good in the dungeon environment. I don't know if we're really going to get too much of a melee meta to help the physical vulnerability in keys, but its survivability is a lot better.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I feel like, was their survivability ever really bad though? I mean, if you have dampen and diffuse for Bruiser, trash button, but like, I feel like I mean, the bounce back thing is the only problem is, and this is super first world problems, so like other classes, please try not to like roll your eyes at this, but because they have so many raid buffs in their class tree, I think it's a little restrictive on what you can actually get, like things like bounce back, right? Because like you might go and get it because it's good enough, but like I feel like you have, dude, I can just hear shamans just like losing their mind when I'm saying this, but like like that you have to spend so many points in your class tree to get these required raid buffs, but yeah, the or group buffs, but yeah, I don't know. I think that's something they could look at too, but probably not before the last raid of this expansion for sure. All right, Resto Druid, tree healer.
Okay, Resto Druid's damage is just terrible. They changed around the spec so that it's playing around with its like Ents, and as a result, last I heard, the Ents are not.
Why are you saying that? What's that word? What does that word mean?
The tree Ents.
Yeah, why are you saying ants?
Ents, E-N-T-S. Yeah, like in remember Lord of the Rings? There were the Ents. They had the Entmoot.
Okay, yeah, you're good. Yeah, keep going.
The pet healing, at least last I talked to the druids, was not converting into Nature's Vigil damage. And so it was making Nature's Vigil even worse passive damage for them than ever before. And it's gotten nerfed in this expansion as well. And their regular buttons don't do damage. So that was like a major downer. Like they still crank crazy output because they kind of have to. I think it's like playing around. It's like the Swift Men's that are proccing Incarn, and so you can have Incarn quite a bit so that you're able to just like blast healing and burst healing. I was seeing some pretty crazy VODs in dungeons because the damage scaling is like insanely high in the dungeons in PTR, where they're able to actually pump the output they need to. But everybody I talked to has said it's really a pain in the ass to get a kick to begin with, and that I might as well consider not getting a kick at all as a druid in keys. That kind of takes away some of its advantage there. conceivably there's other better Druid specs to be able to kind of bring to the table as well. So all it kind of has on hand is just doing a lot of healing.
So my question about Resto Druid is, are you able to control your Ents and what they heal, or is it random?
I think so, because isn't the tier set where your Nourish is like replicating healing onto the target? So I think there's some times where you're able to focus it, and other times it kind of just does whatever.
Yeah. One concern I have for Resto Druid in this raid is there's two fights. One of them is the end boss, and the other one is you know, a wing end boss, and both of them require healing specific targets. And if a decent amount of your output is these trees and you can't make them heal those things, that just sounds really trash. So I don't know. So I think like that's kind of weird. And then also I just think the Nature's Vigil change for, I believe it was done for Feral and Moonkins, where they had Nature's Vigil up for a full 30 seconds, and so they ended up making it a 15-second thing, but that just nerfed Resto Druid's damage for no reason. There was nothing wrong with that. Nature's Vigil for Resto was perfectly fine, and they nerfed their damage and did not give them anything or enough to compensate for it. I think was something that also is not working in their favor.
Yeah, they just kind of seem average at a lot of different things.
Yeah. Where would you put them then?
Okay, so the Druids are saying they can heal the NPCs very well, and that was my experience too in testing.
All right, cool.
So I would kind of put them near the Resto Shaman, because, I mean, we saw, like, literally last year where you guys were running Resto Druid because it was, like, the best of the Druid specs to bring to the table. Having the flexibility between, like, Boomy and Resto Druid was good for your team. It seems like it kind of fell into that. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, it wasn't about Resto Druid, so we almost played double Holy Paladin and then they nerfed it. The reason we played Resto Druid was just because it was, what is better, a third priest over a Resto Druid or a Devastation Evoker over a Moonkin? And that was, like, Devastation Evoker was just massively better than Moonkin last raid. They were, like, way, way, way tankier, and they just did way better damage. So it was more of, like, we brought Resto Druid because of a DPS decision. So, like, Resto Druid was fine. Like, he topped healing in P1 on Sarkrath for us. Like, it was good class, right? It, like, wasn't trolling. It was just, it was more of, like, a DPS decision, yeah. But, okay, so you want Druid in, you said B?
Yeah, I think it'd probably be...
Low B, mid, below Holy Priest, below Resto Shaman, where?
Let's... Damn. I would put it above Holy Priest, because I think it does like substantially better for a key environment, and I think for like those little things when it comes to like I think just in general in like a raiding environment, it would do a lot of things very well for like the average player, and certainly have like miles easier of an experience when it comes to healing keys than Holy or Resto Shaman.
Okay, now I have two big questions for you. Number one, what is the meta healer in Mythic Plus this patch, do you think?
Disc with Prot Pally. Evoker, if there's some way you could run AUG and Prez together, or if something happens to AUG, which I hope. I think Paladin for sure is going to do really well as on top of it. I don't know. It actually seems like there's 3 or 4 good healers for keys, and then there's just like Holy Priest, Resto Shaman on the outs.
Okay. So you're not, but you have to pick one. You're on the spot. You have to make a choice right now, and you can't change it. What's your best bet? You can explain it too.
All right. Well, it's also based on the comp, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean explaining it. Like if you want to make
I would say disc. I would say disc with like a Prot Pally. Maybe you could get away with it with a VDH. I think would probably be the sauce.
Okay. So you're assuming that you're already bringing AUG, which is why you don't want to bring Prez. You're saying that you're likely going to... Okay, sure. Yeah, that's fine. All right.
You're going to bring a tank with a lot of stops, whether it's VDH or Prot Pally. And those stops are going to carry for the lack of kick that the spec has. And presumably you'll be able to have somebody in the group with a battle res.
Okay, why not Monk? Why not, yeah, we'll start with Monk.
Okay, why not Monk is like the best M+ healer?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to go through them each individually. I'm not saying Monk specifically, yeah.
I think the lack of battle res hurts them. There hasn't been anything I've seen that shows that like the physical vulnerability is going to be like a really big benefit for like the best M+ group. Caster comps, magic damage, heavy specs,
one
like
second.
Demon Hunter.
Before you keep going, I don't know what the fuck just happened, but my sound is like bricking for my stream right now, so I'm gonna try to change one thing real quick so that fixes. All right, cool. Sorry for interrupting you, Monk.
All good. Yeah, I just don't think like Monk fits really well in what looks like the likely like tank and DPS comps. It's like pretty good, but not as synergistic as other options.
So Holy Paladin is because you think you're gonna play Prot Paladin. What do you think about Holy Paladin Vengeance combo instead?
That would be really good.
Okay.
I think in season 1 we had a couple different like good options for like tanks and for healers, and I hope that it's going to be like a similar season where the tanks and healers could be pretty interchangeable. Because when you play VDH, you'd have great AoE stops. You could like a pressing roar into the Sigil of Silence, into like a beam, into maybe like a blinding light if you needed it, and then get Sigil of Silence going again. And like that would be an insanely OP combo to be able to have on hand for just constant AoE stops. But also when you need the frequency of the interrupts, Holy Pally gives that to you. So yeah, I think that's going to be like one of those equal, maybe just as good as like a disc Holy or disc prop Pally comp.
Okay. All right, I have one more important question for you. You know it's coming. You right now have to say what the 4 heal comp in the Erased World first is. The best healer comp.
Oh.
You gotta name all 4. Give reasons why.
All right. For like major prog and boss, like last 2-3 fights.
Yeah, whatever the... So like last raid, like our comps were the same except they ran Monk and we ran Druid. They've been like pretty similar in the past. But yeah, give like if you were to... Someone was to ask you right now, you get $1 million if you can guess the 4 healers that are in the world first kill of Fyrakk, or the world first and second kill of Fyrakk. What are those healers?
Holy Pally, Disc, Monk. If the timers work out, you might be able to do another disc, honestly. It's tempting. Without knowing what the timers are looking like for... Without looking what the timers are going to be for Fyrakk, it's tempting. But you could always like flex that into a Holy if you needed to.
Okay, so a second disc flexing to Holy, Monk, Pally, and Disc Priest. Okay, I have one question then. You have Preservation as not the class that's going to be the Mythic Plus healer, regardless of its individual strength, and you didn't mention Preservation in your comp in the Race World first. Do you want to move it down from the quadruple D?
Yeah, I think we might have to. Because I think for like the general player, it's going to do really well in pretty much everything it does. But if we're going to be talking about a list that's going to be more based off of like high-end, like best Raced World first comp or best like high-end M plus comp, then yeah, it's probably better to move it down.
Okay, all right, cool. That was great. This is actually one of the first times ever where talking to healers on my stream has increased my view count. So that's definitely a credit to you. So thanks for doing that. I'll be sure to call you to do stuff like this in the future. Thanks, man.
Yeah, I got you.
All right, see ya. Yep.
Thanks for having me on.
Yep, love you. Bye. He didn't say it back. That's crazy. Call Shroud? For what? Enhance? Here, I'll call him. Let him cook.
Hello.
Hey, man.
What's up, man? How you doing?
I'm doing good. All right, so how do you feel about Enhance next patch?
I think it's gonna own just like it did before. You know, it's not going anywhere.
Okay, so
probably the best like it was before, especially in my hands.
Bro, that's not true.
Hitting mad 99s, and I barely even played the game, so all good. Top parser, barely played though.
I feel like I was a part of that parse though. Like I probably improved that number by a lot.
It's not always about you, man.
Well, I'm just saying.
It's supposed to be about me.
Yeah,
that's why you called me. Okay, I didn't call you.
Okay, well. You know, I'm having a bad day now. I was having a good day.
Okay, actually, on the real though, I don't know anything about this patch, but I'm hearing good things mainly through you. Is it like Justin messaged me out of the blue? He said, "Yo, me and Scar are thinking about playing retail. You in?" So there's a chance we come back, but like you need to really sell this. Like, how do we play retail again? Why do we play retail again?
Oh, okay. Well, Jesus Christ. Well, you shouldn't. I'm just kidding. I feel like this is gonna be the last thing for a year. So like, if you want to get any WoW in until next expansion, it's got to be right now. Plus, okay, I'll try to sell. You want me to sell you a pen right now? I can do that.
Yep.
This is probably based on testing the best raid and I made like a whole thing like breaking it down. The best raid they've made in a while. Did you play Painsmith, Halandris, or Sludgefist at all? Like, do those bosses ring any bells?
Nope.
That's so sad because they're like some of the best bosses ever. Anyways, the dude who made those is making the end boss. So this is like looking to be like one of the best end bosses maybe they've ever made. It's like also way shorter than Razageth, which I know you hated how long that boss was. And they added an upgrade system after you quit, which is just makes you get geared way faster. You get tier way faster, and you like have more deterministic ways to gear your character through Mythic Plus and in Raid. Like that's one thing that I think a lot of people quit and didn't get to see.
A lot of words for selling this pen right now.
What do you want me to fucking do? I mean, I'm just... Okay, also, the Catalyst is out week 1 now, and not week 8, which was, like, sick for finishing off parts of your character. Which I know doesn't really matter for you, because you would just, like, buy gear for going on the run, right? But, like, for normal for like normal people, I feel like it was good. It was nice.
Okay. Well, the one thing you didn't touch on, which is kind of weird, but
What?
the main thing that I heard is there's a legendary two-handed weapon that's gonna go prio to me. So
Are you playing?
Is it good? Is
what are
it
you
Ret
gonna
Pally prio?
So
Like,
here's
what's
the
going on?
deal. So we actually don't know how the legendary drops or what is on the item at all somehow. Same thing with the legendary that dropped last patch. We know nothing about it. But I mean, the legendary last patch was really powerful, so it'll probably be really sick. As far as Ret Pally prio, I mean, I feel like you wouldn't get it right, but like it would probably go.
Huh?
What?
What do you mean? Of course, it doesn't matter what class I'm playing.
No, I
That's
feel like
what
it would go to
mean. It's not
Justin on DK, right? If he was playing.
Dude, he is not taking a legendary over me.
But
fuck do you think he
I
is?
heard he was the best like the best DK in your classic guild, right?
Well, he swapped. He's a warlock now. but
Wait,
yeah,
who's
he was.
who's getting Shadowmourne in your ICC guild?
Me? 2 weeks. Actually, 1 week now.
Did you
after
pay
today,
for
I
it?
guess. No. What do you mean pay for
Justin,
it?
did he pay for it?
Who else would it go to? Are you
Justin.
fucking kidding me?
Justin's
no,
the best.
Justin's on a. He's on a warlock. He swapped. He's not on a DK anymore.
He said no, he's just Shroud. It's so annoying, bro. That's what I'm saying.
No.
That's crazy.
Maybe that's what you're saying, bro. You're in the same position as me. You're the fucking WoW guy, dude.
I
You know
am.
what? I said this, but you didn't see it the other day. I
What's
think
up?
2024 is your fucking year.
Let's fucking go.
I think you are gonna be the
Let's
next
fucking.
Asmongold.
No, there's no fucking
No,
way.
I swear to God.
No,
I
there's
swear
not,
to
dude.
God.
I don't think you understand. Listen, okay, when we did this is what I was telling people at BlizzCon. When the like announcement or like co-streaming the opening ceremony or whatever, my stream did really well, and I was telling people that I think it was like number 2 to Asmongold or number 3 behind Svan, but I didn't mention the difference, right? Like I feel like that's the clutch part, because I think I had like 20k viewers and I think he had 200. That's too much of a gap to make.
Yeah,
up,
but
though.
that gap will close because you are gonna climb. The only reason it is that way is because there's no other interesting fucking WoW person to watch. They're all boring.
Okay, how do I close the
You and
gap?
Asmon are the only two. You close the gap by doing exactly what you're doing. You have fucking 23,000 people just staring at stupid dumbass patch notes with a dumbass tier maker talking to dumbass me. Like, think about that for a second. Isn't that insane?
That is cool. Yeah.
Right?
But the gaps, I think, and actually I talked about Svan when we both got demolished by him at the streamer awards for like best MMO streamer or whatever. I don't think he could ever lose, because for so many MMO players, and a lot of them are like, you know, old classic WoW players and just like really, really long time gamers, I think MMO and Asmongold are synonymous. I don't think they can separate those two things. I think
Well, I'm not saying like you're gonna overtake the guy, because I'm just saying like you can get to that level where you're the guy, not like the guy. He's always gonna be the guy.
Yeah,
just like
he's gonna.
I'm the
Yeah,
guy,
okay,
you
okay.
know?
You're saying I'm gonna grow a lot, and I can fucking get down with that. That sounds sick. But But I think Asmon is like, I think Asmon is the biggest, like, okay, like number 1 to number 2 creator in any genre. I think he's number 1 by the most of any genre on Twitch. And I don't even think it's close. So like, I think him specifically is just like way too big. But bro, I'm down to grow though. Let's go. I'm gonna do like a New Year's Eve event and everything. That sounds sick.
Yeah, no, I'm telling you, 2024 is your fucking year.
Yeah, let's fucking.
And then, I mean, dude, the next 6 years is just fucking. It's Blizzard's back, baby. Let's go fucking Microsoft.
Let's fucking go. All right, I think Taeznak's around. All right, let's get it.
Yo, what's up, X?
Hey, what's up, Taeznak? For everyone in chat, and someone can hopefully put this in the pin. This is Taeznak. I fucking love talking to him about DKs. He's a super genius, really nice guy, and also has great takes. How have you been the past couple months?
Pretty all right, man. How about you?
I'm just out here, you know. I'm recovering from BlizzCon. Were you at BlizzCon?
I was not.
Oh damn, that would have been sick.
Yeah.
All right, so we have DPS Death Knight. Has this been the best expansion for DPS Death Knight in like a long time? I feel like they've just been fucking warlords for the whole expansion.
Yeah, it's definitely been the best DK expansion probably since Legion. Like BFA, Shadowlands were both kind of for DK, but yeah, it's been a really good expansion so far. Sadly, I don't think it's going to continue though.
Okay. Oh,
Just
that's
a little foreshadowing.
yeah, some big foreshadowing then. What? Okay, so let's just kind of start with that. Why do you think that is? Is it like the prevalence of other things, or do you think DKs have fallen off in something that they used to be good at?
Well, so thing is, like DK is getting a lot of really good changes, like pretty much exactly when they need them. But one thing that just didn't happen this time in 10.2 in the PTR cycle is that iteration. It was just a single set of patch notes and they just left it. And due to that, like things looked really good at first, and then as we figured out more and more, and every other spec kind of, figured their stuff out, started to realize DK is just kind of mid this time around. It's just doesn't do anything to really shine anymore.
Okay, so like before this expansion, you had like Frost was just like with a bunch of ads around a single target. Their boss damage with Breath being up forever was so good. Not to mention the free cleave you get from that. Unholy's been this massive, like gargantuan burst class with PI and all their cooldowns, and they made the class a bit more balanced last patch. But you're saying that while balancing it, and probably the gameplay of Unholy, especially like in between your CDs, probably feels a lot better. You think that they've maybe lost their niche and what they were really strong at in the first place?
A little bit. I think it's more, it doesn't really, how do I word this? Sorry. The tuning changes, I don't think really did it, because like the bar barely moved in terms of that. I really think it was the external nerfs that really kind of kneecapped Unholy, took away its niche, and then throw on top of it that assassination roguery work, and now they basically do the same thing as Unholy, except on a 2-minute timer, which, I mean, let's be real here. 2-minute specs are just way better at raid bosses than 3-minute specs. It's just the reality of it. So
also, all
now
the
that you have
things that
assassination-
all the things in the game that buff massive burst are on a 2-minute cooldown as well, right? Like Evoker, Breath, and PI, and all that shit. So it's like less. It's like technically more value, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So Assassination's kind of stepping in to take the niche that Unholy had. Its tuning's just not there enough to really give it a solid reason to be in the raid. So, like, I don't know. Plus, no grip fights, nothing really good for AMZ, no raid buff. Like, this raid's just looking real mediocre for DK.
Okay, so starting with Unholy, where do you think combined Mythic Plus and rating they end up in this patch?
C tier.
Really, the first
ass,
C
but
tier? Okay.
yeah.
I think Unholy, I can't speak about raid at all, but I think Unholy and Mythic Plus, I feel like maybe up until like a super high key will have like really, really high value. I think they'll just be like a great Mythic Plus class. Probably, I don't know if this is going to be true. Maybe I'm wrong about this, but I feel like probably a good MDI class too. So I think
Yeah.
they'll have some value, but just probably not like top tier meta.
Exactly, yeah. It'll be pretty decent in Mythic Plus. It's just not looking good at all in Raid, which is why I'm putting it down in C. Like, if it was okay in Raid and okay in Mythic Plus, I'd probably put it in B, but the Raid's just really rough, man.
Okay. All right, what about Frost? Frost, I did like one thing about Frost. I like the new tier set. I love Chill Streak as a button. I feel like one thing they should do going forward is make Chill Streak bouncing off you that just needs to exist all the time in the classic. That shouldn't be a tier bonus thing. But, DK, I feel like Frost has flown under the radar this expansion. Don't you think? Like, outside of Mythic Plus, like, they've been such a good raid class, but, like, Unholy gets all the shine because of, like, the PI and the burst. But, like, Frost has been so good this expansion.
Yeah, and that's actually going to continue, I believe. It's going to be pretty dang good in Raid. Sadly, due to no grips and its tuning also being a little under where I'd probably want it, I don't think it's going to be, like, top tier, but it's still going to be pretty dang good in Raid. So I'd probably put Frost in, high B, low A tier. And, let's go high B.
High B for Frost.
I feel like, yeah, it's going to be a really good spec. Does the 2-minute well, still scales really well with externals. It brings a lot of really nice things to have. If you see a Frost DK, or if you see a DK in raids, it's probably going to be Frost or Blood. It's just my opinion.
Okay. All right, so that's So also one thing I'll ask you too. I asked the tanks and healers this, but just as a fun thing, if you were to guess how many DPS DKs do you think are in the world first kill of Fire Rack?
0.
Oh man. Okay. All right. Thanks for the time, man. Always love talking.
Yep. Thanks, man.
All right. Thank you. All right. See you later.
Ciao.
This is so funny. Wordup messaged me the Enhanced Shaman. We'll do Enhanced Shaman next. When I was talking with Shroud says Enhance is gonna be like S tier because he's playing it or whatever, and it's gonna be insane. And he's just making it up. And Wordup goes, I can't even argue, but I'll call Wordup real quick.
No, you were just going with Shroud's thing, like he was right.
He was well, I want you to elaborate on it a little more. He was just making it up. First of all, it was really nice seeing you at BlizzCon, by the way. Great conversations, and you're a super cool dude. I hope you make it out every year.
Yeah, it was cool to meet you.
Yeah.
I had a really good time.
Yeah.
You're gonna get like extra cupcakes. I'm really tired right now, but
Oh, that's even better. All right, so tell me what you think about Enhance this patch.
it's not gonna like roll the meters on every boss, but I think it's maybe the best melee
Okay.
for that raid. I think it's real close.
Okay, so maybe the best melee in raid. What about Mythic Plus?
That's a riskier one, because Havoc and the rogue situation exists, but it's gonna do a shitload of damage.
Okay.
Like its damage, burst profile, and everything like that. That tier set is pretty broken. it's still got the control, but I don't know whether or not it's got the like group survival thing that ends up being needed when they climb really high, which was like the whole thing this season.
Yeah, and if you think that Havoc is going to be good, also bringing Enhanced to Mythic Plus gives them some value, you know, right?
That one problem is fitting in Wind Fury is really hard in Plus.
True,
Because
yeah.
that talent tree is super bloated with really good shit.
Yeah, which really sucks, right? Doesn't it? It sucks so much that you have so many good things that you can't take.
I
Wind
hate
Fury.
that my talent tree is just filled with good shit.
Yeah,
it's
it
like
sucks.
the worst thing that I could deal with.
Yeah, I can give some personal anecdotes on Enhance. I've loved playing. This is my first expansion playing Enhance. I've loved playing it. I think the current tier set is the singular most fun Enhance I've ever played. Like the 20-second Prim Wave, like your damage profile is fucking insane. And specifically them changing Prim Wave to give you the majority of the haste benefit when only used on one target is like incredibly strong. So like
it's so fast, and you always feel like you're going to like a big moment, and you're not waiting around or anything.
Yeah.
It plays really it just plays really cool. Like I think the whole talent tree, I think it's the best design tree this expansion at this point.
I would agree with you.
Because it's just bangers all the way down.
You have two completely different play styles and distinct builds within one spec tree that have been at one point in this expansion very good for AoE and single target. That is like, and they're both fun in their own way and very unique. I feel like whoever made the enhanced tree is a fucking genius. It's so good.
Like I said, it's basically like we've been playing with hero talents already this expansion, because we just got 2 subspecs that we get to play with all. So we're like the test bed. So if anyone wants to know if that's fun, I can tell you it is. So that means next expansion, it's got to be fun if they do that right.
Yep. Okay, so we have where do you want to put it? Do you want to put it at the very top, first spec, or do you want to put it under that?
I can't stop singing its praises, so it's got to go at the top of the list. Man. Like I'm sure the other people, if they've been honest, I put it in DDDD.
All right.
Personally.
Let's fucking go.
Maybe that's like the no sleep talking, but I think it deserves it.
No, sometimes that's when you're at your most honest. All good. All right, thank you, man. That's all I needed. And I hope to see you at BlizzCon next year. I'm sure we'll have some more talks before then.
Hell yeah, I'll see you then if it's on.
All right, see you. Make sure you get some sleep.
I will do.
Yeah, see you later. Love you. Bye. All right, cool. We have Critcake after this. Azortharion said he can come on and talk about survival real quick. No one's saying it back, man. Hello?
Hello.
Wait, I see that picture. Were you at BlizzCon this year?
No, that was outside of Greg's.
Oh,
nowhere near
okay.
BlizzCon.
Yeah.
But maybe next year.
Yeah. All right. So we're gonna talk at some later point. But what is your opinion on Survival Hunter specifically?
So survival is looking pretty good overall. I'd say it's probably one of its strongest looking tiers in a while. It's not quite Shadowlands Season 3, Season 4 tier. But it's very strong. So I suppose almost everyone has seen all the sim charts going around where survival is the strongest hunter spec on single target. And the AoE is also pretty good. I'd say if survival has a weakness, it's just that it's not very bursty, especially compared to MM, which is like, I don't know, borderline Omega bursty, some of the burstiest in the game.
Yep.
And the BM is now also reasonably bursty. So if that's a weakness, then yeah, that would be survivals. But the damage is really, really good. And an underrated aspect that not a lot of people are talking about is that it retains like 95% of its single target in its like full AoE pad build. And there are a few fights, usually in the raid there are fights that sort of ask a bit of AoE but are still predominantly single target. So in that way, survival is quite flexible.
Wow, that's awesome. I feel like survival's been like so down bad this whole expansion, so it seems like they're getting a little bit of a buff. All right, so Mythic plus Raid combined, where do you think they end up?
I think I've given them I think it's close to DD, like A plus is probably where I put it. I think, especially among the melee and stuff. So I mean, the thing is, it doesn't quite bring some of the non-damage stuff that other melee bring. And there's things like Havoc, Demon Hunter that exist. But I think like really, really high A, borderline S / deep dick dolly dumpster tier.
Man, when people spell it all out, okay. All right, fuck yeah, that's good. I need to kind of zoom through these, so I'm gonna go, but we're gonna spend a lot more time talking about the other two. So, all right.
Yep. Bye bye.
Yep. Thank you. See ya. All right, we have Jfunk to talk about Windwalker. Oh, this will be good.
Hello.
Honor plane. Oh, hello. So you know what you are tasked to do. What do you think about Windwalker this patch? Mythic plus and Raid combined.
Oh man, it is. I want to preface this. I don't think I've ever seen morale lower across the spectrum. Like even in PvP, like no one wants to play this thing.
Yeah, and that's saying something because Windwalkers have been permanently down bad for years.
Like Dragonflight has been so bad, and 10.2 people were hoping for something, But if you go to the patch notes, half of the patch notes are just like bug fixes to your tier set that no one wanted. It's so bad. And it's like, what makes people mad, I think, is that usually we're in the state, but like Mistweaver got some changes and we're happy for them. But like, there's some Mistweaver changes that could have applied to Windwalker that didn't. Like the Phalan Stomp thing and the bounce back thing would have been great.
Yep, they just
There's been so much personal defensive creep this expansion that Windwalker isn't as tanky as it used to be, and bounce back is useless for Windwalker usually. So like that would have been really nice.
Okay, so looking down bad on all angles, where do you think they end up being ranked? Do we need a new tier?
Yeah, you need to put a tier like below this that like they needed changes really bad. They didn't get anything. So and going forward into the next expansion, they need to change something drastically behind the scenes because like we can't have this. Like Phalan Stomp is the worst ability in the game, and if they keep it for War Within, we're screwed. Like I don't know.
All right, I put it in the ain't no way tier, so
Yeah,
that's where it
that's
has
good.
to be. All right, how many how many Windwalkers do you think are in the world first kill of Fyrak?
Is there a negative number? Like, there's no way. Like, this thing needs like Antorus level, like 15% aura buff, because Blizzard thinks this spec is like an AOE specialist, I think, still, and like, but its AOE is like relatively weaker than its single target right now. So it just needs like aura buffs across everything, because in Mythic Plus it also sucks. I will say there are more builds. It's kind of back to where it was in 10.0 though, where it's like single target you can play Serenity Phalan Stomp, which is, you know, no one likes that. And AoE, you can play SCF again, but you have to play Todd stuff. And you can technically play Rolling Dragon Punch, but it's not that good on single target. So
Okay, so Whirling Dragon Punch. So build diversity good, power level bad, and
well, it's just build diversity is back to what it was before the previous tier happened, I guess.
Okay, very good. All right, thanks for the call. I'm depressed now, but that's
All
okay.
right. Love you, man.
All right, see you. Oh, well, wait, no. Wait, come on. Love you too. He left. Fuck. Okay, I didn't expect someone to get me with that, and he did the fucking kissy noise too. Holy shit, bro! I literally rejoined the call and he left in my face. Holy shit. All right, that's not good. No, you hate to see that. I got a message from Whispyr. I said rogue stuff ? He said rogue stuff in return. Oh, okay. That I feel like I wasn't clear. Can you talk about them tier list style? I guess it makes sense for him to just respond by saying what I said. Whispyr said YOLO. I'm gonna get roasted. Let's go. But I wonder if I actually ended up talking to him at BlizzCon. I think that was him. Hello? Hello. Yo, were you the guy I met at BlizzCon?
Yeah.
Okay, I fucking thought so. Sorry, I was kind of drunk that night, but I remember
That's fine.
I met a lot of people and I was almost positive I remembered your name. So fuck yeah, let's go. All right. So you just mentioned that you think you're gonna get roasted. That's fine, but I just need you to give your opinions on Rogue in the upcoming patch, recent rework. So potential for being strong. What do you think of the specs in any order you want?
Sure. So for subtlety, they got a lot of changes that kind of push them more towards damage inside of Shadow Dance, which helps their general bursts, which they were complaining about before. They also got a couple of quality life changes, so they're looking pretty good. They have a couple of concerns generally regarding like still some left side and stuff and Shadow Dust and Rotten. They don't really like that playstyle.
Okay.
But overall, I think they're pretty happy, and the burst looks good. So in general, you know, I'd put them pretty high up there. Looking at the list that you have right now.
Yep. Yeah, you can use context of the rest of the list.
Yeah, I'd probably put them like A-ish.
Okay.
Mid A.
Okay.
Now Outlaw. Me no Outlaw player, but I've heard good things. People are happy about it. Numbers are looking really strong on Outlaw in general. I know that they're having some fun with some of their new talents, and there's one talent, Underhanded Upper Hand, which people really enjoy. It's a whole novel. I'm not gonna read it, but
yeah, you're good.
You know, they're chilling. They're having a good time. So I'd also generally put Outlaw in A.
Okay.
I think there's a lot of good stuff to have there.
Sure. Yeah, no, I mean, I've had... You don't play a lot of Outlaw. I played Outlaw. I, like, kind of learned Outlaw in this patch, and that spec is, like, unbelievably fun. As far as the like, power level of it, especially with, you know, like, it seems like PI has been nerfed. Like, I feel like Rogues couldn't really get into Mythic Plus because they weren't, like, able to scale with PI, really, even though they were pretty strong outside of it. And, like, I feel like that will bring them a little closer to this tier, and then, obviously, I can't talk about Raid, but okay, high A. That's fine. All right, and what do you think about Ass? Or wait, what do you call it? Do you call it Assa or Sin or Ass? I always hear different ones.
Yeah, so I'm a Sin sayer.
Okay.
But in text sometimes I will say Asa
Okay,
because I'm weird like that.
that works. Okay, so what do you think?
So Asa is looking pretty good. Sin's looking pretty good. Whatever you want to call it. There's a lot of burst in that spec, like a lot of burst in that spec. But there's also some bugs and stuff that need to get fixed. If the bugs get fixed, it's looking pretty cracked, looking like a really good PI target as well, which can be good. And also all of the concerns about like assassination not being able to cleave or do AoE in raids and stuff is basically gone.
Okay.
Because you just change one talent into Caustic Spatter and GG.
Okay, so sounding good. Sounding real good.
It's sounding really good. I'd say just like design and change wise, it's definitely a big winner. Number wise, obviously whatever, but I'd put it like near the top of A.
Okay.
If we're just going off numbers right now, Outlaw is definitely the better spec. So I don't know like what the tier is in terms of like numerics or just design.
Okay.
But yeah, it's looking pretty good. In general, Rogue is also really happy with the class tree. I feel there's like some complaints about acrobatic strikes, like not having long arms in general. People are upset about that. But aside from that, you know, we have 2 charges of feint now, which is good. Elusiveness, which makes feint work on all sources of damage, is really strong. That got buffed. We have an AoE blind now on a 1-minute cooldown, which also has like a mortal strike effect built into it and a damage reduction.
Yeah, it is. You guys got the true rework experience.
Yeah, sprint's really strong now too. It's 100% speed for 12 seconds, so that got a big buff. So in general, class tree, good stuff. Outlaw, really strong. Assassination, good burst. Subtlety, good burst. Overall, looking saucy.
Yeah, so you as a rogue player, you'll have the ability to like kind of do whatever you want because they all do different things. You have like burst and burst AoE and sub. You have like crazy single target burst and outlaw or in assassination. Then outlaw is like the Mr. Consistency, and they're all good at what they do, right? So like if you're a rogue player and you're willing to play all 3, you kind of have access to a bunch of different play styles and strengths, which is like insanely good for anyone, right? So
correct.
I have one question for you. Or 2 questions. Do you think rogue is in the meta Mythic Plus comp at least up until 10.2.5? So just based on release in a week.
I mean, probably not. I mean, I really don't know. M plus meta is always so shaky to kind of try and predict.
Okay, so you think it's close. It's just you would guess that no.
Yeah, my guess is probably not, unless Outlaw stays as strong as it does. I mean, if Outlaw is like 10% better than everything, then obviously you play Outlaw, right?
Yeah, they have a target cap issue, but yeah, I mean, you would make good value out of it.
So I don't know. I always try to err on the side of mages and stuff will be better. The wizard specs.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wizards are always insane, yeah.
But if the numbers are good, then you'd play a rogue. Yeah, sure, why not?
Okay, all right. And then in the world first kill of Mythic Fire Rack, how many rogues are in the comp and what spec?
Oh god, man. Oh god, man. You're gonna make the Twitch frogs go after me with that one. I don't know. I'd probably guess maybe 2.
Okay.
And I would assume that they're either both playing Assassination or they're both playing Outlaw.
Okay. All right. That is great. That's all the information I needed. Thank you, Mr. Whispyr, and he did not want to come on and talk about all 3 rogue specs. By the way, he was like, "I'm gonna get fucking flamed because I don't play all of them all the time, but let's just fucking do it." So respect, big time. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, no problem. Glad to help.
All right. See you later. Love you. Bye.
Bye.
All right. Sick. All right. Calling Jedith up then. Let's talk Havoc. Hello.
Hello?
Hello, and nice seeing you at BlizzCon. Caught you at the end there, I think. Was that like Saturday night?
Yeah, it was like Saturday. I was on my way to the bar across the street, and I just ran into you. Man, I have like the worst con crud right now. You have to excuse me if my voice sounds kind of fucked up.
Oh, you're good.
I'm struggling.
Yeah, somehow this is like super not. Let's knock on wood, right? We had like 17 of our players go to BlizzCon, and then they're all staying in town. So, like, they're all staying with each other for a week, and then even more players are flying in over the weekend. So I was, like, terrified that everyone was going to get sick, but I didn't get sick. We had one person get sick, and we, like, isolated them instantly. They don't have, like, COVID or anything. They just probably got whatever the fuck was going around the con, but somehow, like, we didn't get, like, a massive sickness outbreak from that, so hopefully that stays the same. So, sorry.
Yeah, I don't know.
Sorry you're dealing with that. Must suck.
There's, like, 40,000 people there? It's kind of hard to...
There's a ton of fucking people there, yeah. All right, so you are tasked with coming on to talk about the potential strength of Havoc in Mythic Plus and Raid, right fresh off of a rework. So what are you thinking about Havoc?
So yeah, the rework was definitely needed. I think the last time we talked, it was pretty grim for Havoc. But the DH Dev, Reels, and whoever else works on the spec, they did a great job. They've been doing a great job over the past little while trying to fix things and listening to players. The damage now is a lot better than it used to be. Defensives, that was a big problem with us back before. We didn't have Netherwalk, we didn't have Fell Eruption, but we got all that back. We got Netherwalk back. We have a new talent, Deflecting Dance, where Blade Dance gives an Absorb Shield. We have 2 other talents that are giving us defensives now, so all of that's been kind of taken care of. I would say the one problem that I think some might see it as a problem, some others won't, but the movement thing is still the playstyle. I know there's a lot of Havoc players who just hate using it whatsoever and they don't want to do it. But still, like, if you're wanting to do the most damage possible, you're going to be playing Inertia, you're going to be playing Momentum. It kind of divides the player base in that aspect, but personally, I don't mind it. Let's see. So in Mythic Plus, there's actually a lot of build diversity now too.
Oh, that's sick.
So you could play Fel Barrage if you want. They've redesigned Fel Barrage to be something completely different. You could still play Essence Break for a bit more like boss damage, prio damage, or you can just play like Glaive Tempest. So like all of them are good options, and that's really cool because, like I said, there are groups who prefer to play a certain way, and they'll be pulling super big, and that's when you might use one talent. Or if you're like playing with another class who's just blast and adds and you want to do a bit more boss damage, you can play Essence Break. So yeah, there's definitely some diversity. And they gave us a Fire Inside. I don't know if you saw that talent, but you can get up to 5 immolation auras at a time.
Oh yeah, the only time I saw it was like in the very first iteration of Fel Barrage when it had like an uncapped duration, and like seeing people pop off with like the amount of immo auras they could get in a row, and like they just had like an insane Fel Barrage. That was fun.
Yeah, luckily they fixed that, so it can't get crazy out of control. But I think having all those immo auras, it's cool because you get rage fires for all of them too, and it's kind of, I don't know, it's cool to see it all stack up. So yeah, I think overall Havoc is doing really well right now.
So they buffed their defensiveness, they buffed their damage. So what tier do you think they go in?
So here's the problem, right? If I put them where I want to put them, I'm gonna get accused of being the reason why they get nerfed. If I put them any lower,
that's ridiculous.
I'm gonna get accused of sandbagging.
Okay, but then also if you allow either of those things to change your ranking, then you're just doing the wrong thing,
Correct. So that being said, I'm gonna put it in DDD.
All right, DDD. We'll put it up in DDD then. Do you care if it's before or after Enhance?
I'll let Wordup go ahead of me.
Okay, sounds good. And then I have 2 more questions for you then.
Okay.
Do you think Havoc Demon Hunter is going to be in the meta Mythic Plus comp this patch?
I think probably. Yeah, I think probably.
Okay.
I've seen too many Havoc players on the PTR just doing nutty things. And I saw a couple Havocs being played in the BlizzCon stuff, so I would imagine there's probably going to be quite a few of them in the meta.
Yeah, and I mean, there's another thing about it too. Like, I guess the only thing that would make you not want to do it is because like it looks like Vengeance could also be meta. So it's like 2 Demon Hunters kind of seems like you're like doing, you're bringing like the same raid buff twice. But that doesn't even feel bad because Darkness is absolutely fucking ridiculous in Dungeons now. So like you wouldn't even feel bad bringing a second one of those things. So yeah, I would agree with you. I can talk about Mythic Plus balance. It would be surprising to me if Havoc was not, especially with how much tankier they are now, if they were not in Mythic Plus. Okay, and then for the Race World First, someone is going to give you $1 million if you get it right. How many Havoc Demon Hunters kill Fire-Ak?
How many kill them?
Yeah, like how many are in the comp? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4?
Right. I'm going to say probably 2. There's going to be 2 per raid group.
Okay, so that's a fucking good patch for Havoc. You think you're going to have two Havoc Demon Hunters in for the raid, and then your meta in Mythic Plus, and you just got reworked and your class is a lot more fun. So sounds like all things are looking up for Havoc, so that's good. And it not...
Yeah, we'll see if it lasts.
Yeah, for sure. All right, thanks for the call, man.
All right, dude. Good talking to you. Love you. Bye.
Yes, love you too. Bye. Let's fucking go. I did it before he left. I knew it. Dude, he did this to me last time. I was fucking prepared. I said it before he left. I said it before he left the call. Holy fuck. Get destroyed, fucking idiot. Get owned. All right. I didn't mean that. Oh, he's here. Hello?
Hey. Sorry, I didn't realize.
Yeah, no, sorry. I know we talked like an hour ago or so, and you were doing a couple keys, but yeah, I'm glad you're still there. I have some important questions for you. 3 mainly, and we'll start with the first one, which is how good do you think Fury and Arms are going to be this patch in PvE?
I think in raid we're gonna be good. We're gonna be broad still. So I think as DPS warriors we're probably like A, but like I feel like there are some issues with the specs. Arms, for example, like I said before, we can't spend our rage outside of execute, but Arms' damage has gone up going from this patch to the next one, because even though they nerfed Ignore Pain so it doesn't contribute towards Testamite or Anger Management anymore, we got Aura buff by 6%, and MS and OP also got buffed by 10%. So Arms damage up, but according to the Sims, we are not looking like amazing or anything. Maybe just below middle of the pack, but maybe we get the Legendary and we'll be above average anyway. And Arms' execute is always going to be really strong, so that kind of makes up for it. But yeah, it feels bad that they gave us aura buffs and didn't fix our rage issues. I feel like if they just fixed our issues, then our DPS would have gone up anyway. So Fury, I think Fury is probably on paper stronger than Arms DPS wise in raid.
And you do think they both go in A for raid overall, or are you including Mythic Plus in that as well?
Not including Mythic Plus in there. So I think I want to put both specs in B.
You want to put both specs in B? Okay.
Maybe high B.
High B. We'll put them in high B.
Yeah.
But that's interesting. Do you have any? But I'm going to ask you a few other questions about metas this patch, and then also. But before that, do you have anything else you want to say about Warrior you think is super important?
I think it's interesting that Arms used to be the top spec for Wind Fury, right? Because it gives Arms more rage.
Yeah.
But because of the rage spending issues that I mentioned, it's a contender for being dropped out of the Wind Fury group now, because we just don't benefit that much from the rage. It's still good for execute, because in execute we can spend rage, but that's the only time we actually make use of that rage. On the flip side, Fury's Wind Fury value has gone up, because we're playing Annihilator, which is Fury's version of like the Demon Blades or Crusading Strikes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And then they also had Rally nerfed, and they still, at least until hero talents are out, they lack some utility in versions of the game in general. Okay, so I have a question for you. Do you think, do you think Warrior, I've asked everyone this question, do you think Warrior is in the Mythic Plus main meta comp in 10.2?
No, I don't think so. I mean, sure, we'll be viable, but I don't think we'll be part of the meta. Maybe we'll be above average, maybe if we're lucky above average, but definitely not meta.
Okay, and then how many and what spec of Warrior do you think are in the world first kill of Mythic Fyrakk?
Ooh, what can I ask you? What kind of fight is Fyrakk? Are there ads? Are there what kind of?
In P1, you're burning a boss to 70%. In P2, you're fighting the boss, but eventually he will fly up, and you are 2-target cleaving some giant colossus that have a time for them to die. So like good sweeping strikes, arms value, and like your CDs would work. You know, they technically should work decent for that. Sometimes if the boss comes back fast, No Way to Know could be 3-target cleave, and then the last phase is going to be roughly 40-0 with Halandra's bombs in it.
That sounds like an on fight.
Okay, so it sounds like you think arms, and then how many?
2, maybe 3 if it really benefits.
Oh wow, let's go. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so Warrior potentially 2 of them in on the last boss specifically. All right, let's go.
Yeah, possibly. Let's go.
Let's fucking go. Go ahead.
Right. What else? I want to mention something more, but I can't remember. I lost train of thought.
Oh no. Okay, you're fine. Yeah, thanks for the call, man. Wait, did you make it out to BlizzCon?
No, I didn't. I should go someday.
Yeah, you definitely should go. I'd love to meet with you and talk about, just everything. It'd be really fun.
Fury and Plus though.
Okay.
Can I also mention?
Yeah.
Fury and Plus right now. It feels good, right? You have damage for every pack. It's really smooth. Our cooldowns are really low, so you can just kind of send. But Fury next patch just feels really underwhelming. You have one big burst, and then you have to wait 1.5 minutes for your next burst. Sure, you fill with Odin's Fury every 25 seconds or so, but that one Odin's Fury isn't really making up for what we're doing right now. So I think Fury might need some love in keys, because
I feel like it's been that way for a while. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but at least right now we have decent damage. We bring decent damage, but I think maybe we don't even bring that next patch in the keys.
Oh man. All right, well, so Fury Warriors hopefully getting better, and hopefully Arms eventually can get rid of their slam problem, I guess. All right.
Yep.
All right. Thanks for the call, man.
All right. Thank you very much. See ya.
Yep. Bye. Whispyr sent me a picture of him and I at BlizzCon, and he said, for the record, I was kind of zooted too, because this pick is Windwalker tier, and then he has a pic of us, and I think we both look kind of zooted. Okay, Psybear is briefly free, but we're going to call him up real quick, because Miss Marvel isn't here. Let's go. Hello.
Yo, what's good, Chief?
Everything's good. We're good. We just got back from BlizzCon. Got to hang out with you a little bit there. That was fun.
And it was good fun. It was good fun. It was nice seeing you and all the boys. Oh, dude, I'm fired up. Hilarious, by the way.
Oh yeah, he's funny. Did you see Shaq flopping around at any point?
I didn't see him flopping, but he kept giving me a little fist every I'd see him, and he'd introduce himself to me every time. I was like, bro, I met you like 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, I don't know if that was a bit or if he was. I mean, he was. So just to give you, was this on Saturday night?
No, this was the Friday.
Oh, Friday.
Thursday. Sorry, Thursday.
Okay, yeah, because on Friday, I got a call from JB's wife, Shanna, and she had me come down and escort him out of the Hilton before they called the cops on him for dropping drinks, and which would have gotten him arrested and maybe deported.
Oh
so
wait, serious? This is a real thing?
Oh yeah, he was just yeah. I mean, he wasn't doing anything bad.
way.
He was just like, he just kept spilling drinks, and they were over that. Yeah,
That's a bit extreme. In England, they just go way when someone drops a drink. They don't. They threaten the cops. Okay, well, I hope he's all right now. But
oh, he's
yeah, man,
perfectly fine. Yeah, I just had to convince him on the. I called the Instant Dollars house, and I was like, "Can I leave Shaq here? But importantly, you can't let him leave because he will leave if there's a door. He'll just walk somewhere." But yeah, no, he's good now. All right, so I need you to give me some info on Feral and stuff. I know you've been playing a lot of Final Fantasy, but you're always my Feral guy. What's your thoughts on Feral coming up?
Yeah, sure, man. So, do you want exclusively raid conversation or
both combined? Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I have been playing a lot of Final Fantasy, but I've obviously done some PTR testing of keys. I've done a little bit of raid testing with Honolulu. Shout out to my boys. And yeah, I mean, I think Feral's looking really good. We are getting some improvements. The tier set looks really good, in my opinion, with Feral Frenzy giving us more single target, getting it more often, and then it also increasing our damage a bunch, which is increases all of our other damage, right? So that's going to be getting us more single target and AoE in essence. So we were already taking it in raid pretty much all the time, like Feral Frenzy all the time anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I know some people are upset about Feral Frenzy being locked into a talent because of a tier set, but the way I see it is you either get a boring bland tier set or you get something that's gonna interact with your toolkit, and so we're getting something that we were taking all the time anyway. So the Feral Frenzy tier set I think is good. We've got a couple build options for raid.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've got a convoke build and a non-convoke build.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, which I think is cool because I know a lot of people, they talk about wanting to play convoke and missing convoke, and then you also have the inverse where everyone's like, I hate convoke, I never want to touch it ever again.
Yeah.
So I think having those couple options there is good. I don't know what the last couple bosses in the raid look like. That'll obviously dictate how good Feral is based on what kind of fight design it is, and I genuinely don't know what those look like at the moment. But I like having access to a couple build options. I think our single target looks good. I think it looks really quite good, but I haven't looked at every single spec in terms of where they're sitting. For Mythic Plus as well, I think we're going to be looking good. Obviously, with no Demon Hunter, with no Orgvoker, so that's the worry. I think Outlaws also.
Well, you don't really have
to
to beat Demon Hunter or Orgvoker, right? You just have to beat the other Druid specs.
True, which I think right now, as far as I'm aware, Guardian's not looking great. Well, I see it in Swamp Ass. So Guardian's in Swamp Ass. Resto Druid I don't think is mega right now, so that bodes well for us. The thing is, I don't know if you heard of this spec Balance Druid, but it seems to be pretty good oftentimes, which is potentially the concern for us and seems to consistently be the issue for Feral Druid as we're competing against the chickens. So in Mythic Plus, I don't know how that's that'll just be the decision, right? If Boomy's better than us, then they'll get taken. If they're not very good, then maybe we'll get taken. But yeah, you will want Mark of the Wild, so maybe that's where Feral comes in. That's my hope.
Okay, cool. So you have to pick a numeric ranking, or I guess a ranking on this tier list for Feral. Where does it go? Both combined.
I would put a conservative estimate of B. There's potential for A, but I would say somewhere in that BA section.
Okay. And then I have 2 more questions for you. Number 1, you sound like you've already answered. Do you think Feral is in the de facto best Mythic Plus comp this season?
I don't think it's in the best. I think it's like just sort of shy. Like it's just beneath that. Like I don't think it's Swamp Ass. I think it's going to be strong, and I think it'll hold its own, but it just won't be Biss. Yeah.
Okay, and then do you think, or are there any, or how many Ferals are in the world first kill of Fyrak?
Oh God. I think we see at best. I think we see 1. I don't think you stack them. I think at best you see 1. But if history is anything to go by, I say 1. I say 1.
You say 1. Okay, that's a just for people who want to look historically. The amount of feral druids. When was the last raid in the Race World First where like the top teams brought a feral druid? It was in Siege of Orgrimmar, in MoP. It wasn't in Blackrock Foundry. It wasn't in Hellfire Citadel. I think it was Siege of Orgrimmar. Yeah, it's been literally 10 years since it was correct to play a feral druid in progression. So that would be bringing it back. So
bro, there's kids that are Fortnite dancing right now that weren't even alive last time Ferals played in Raid. So hopefully one of you boys, if it does get played, maybe one of you. But talk to Shakib. Maybe he'll do a little Fortnite dance. I'm sure he will.
Oh, yeah, he'll probably rip one. Yeah, he'll do the one with the L on the head. And yeah, that's good. All right, man, good stuff.
That was a really brief talk. There's probably a lot more I could have said.
Yeah,
but
of course.
You literally caught me. I was watching Great British Bake Off, so you just caught me in my little
perfect time.
element right there.
Yeah, you're good.
Man.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
Thanks for the call, man.
All right, man. You have a good one.
Yeah, you too. See ya. We have one more person, and it is Gantheon, who's gonna step in for Rhett. No love. Oh, I fucking forgot. Hello, Mr. Gantheon.
What is up?
Hello. We have some people in chat that are really interested to see how good you think Rep Paladin is going to be in this season.
I feel like I can just place it where I feel like it's really difficult just because the tier set's not functioning correct. If they don't fix that, I think Red stays in low B.
Okay.
Just because it's not working in the way to where you can min-max having the most value of getting your Wrathful Sanction procs off. So there are going to be some times when you hit Judgment on something that has Expurgation on it, it's not going to proc your tier set. I'm hoping that they fix that. If they fix that, I believe it'll probably hop up to high B. If not, go into low A just because of its survival.
Okay. And then does the Legendary play into that at all?
Yes and no. I just don't know what the Legendary is going to give us. That doesn't give like Unholy Decay, which has always been a good PI target, or Warrior, either spec. So I just don't know how it's going to interact with what our kit provides.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, because you don't want to like put it up a couple rankings assuming that it's insane, but like I think everyone knows that like a two-handed Legendary could absolutely like shoot a class way up in power level. So we'll leave it like mid-low B for now, and then going forward it may be just a lot better once we actually know about the Legendary. All right.
Yeah, and then just how it interacts with like a Ret's playstyle.
Mm-hmm. Okay, do you think Rep Paladin is in the Mythic Plus comp this season?
I think early just because it lives. I think you'll see a lot of people just completing keys and getting keys done with classes that can live mechanics even though they're not 100% used to it.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I definitely felt that. Yeah, so you have that, and then you have Raid. How many Rets, if any, are in the World First Fire at Kill?
It solely depends on what Holy and Prot provide, because unfortunately our utility is not unique. Why would you bring a Ret Paladin for Ret Aura buff if Prot Paladin's going to be good and Holy Paladin's good?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a couple reasons for that. Number one, the balance between those two roles could be like different, right? Like, but obviously you've just played a Holy Paladin for so long, so I think the assumption is by most people that you would do that again, even though they've been nerfed more than they have before. And then I think the Rets do bring something else that they are, something that is not true of Holy, at least, is like Ret Paladin is like among the tankiest classes in the entire game, like way tankier than Holy Paladin.
We just live.
Yeah.
And like they're like, you also have Rets being able to, if they use Blessing of Sacrifice appropriately, like you have a DPS that can just live putting sack on a tank. So it's like you have an actual like resource that you can use outside of your healers that you can like that can benefit in raid during progression.
Yeah. Okay, so you said you're not sure, but you have to put your stamp on it. You have to get, what's the official number?
I think you can probably get
No, not can. What will happen?
One. You're gonna get one ret.
You're gonna get one ret. All right, shout out rets. All right,
Yeah, because we benefit off people dying, so you're gonna see higher numbers during progression, especially during world first kills, because they benefit off of wings proc and when someone dies. And if you can get that with your tier set and it's working functionally, you're gonna get a lot of damage in an execution sentence window.
All right.
So the burst is there.
All right, let's fucking go. All right, thanks for the talk, man. Did you make it out to BlizzCon?
I did not. I decided it's my niece's first birthday coming up, so I went back home to go celebrate time with family.
All right, all good. I hope to see you there next time. And thanks for the call, man.
Oh, not a problem. Love you.
Yeah, bye. Love you too. Oh, I think he might have left before. Okay, yeah, I think I take the L on that one. All right, so rets are in there. All right, so this is where we standing. A lot of A's and B's. I mean, that's like pretty much how it goes, right? Like, I would say like most WoW patches have a lot of classes that are good or pretty good, and then there are outliers on the top and the bottom. Some patches have been a bit different, but because like this is all community sentiment, right? Because like here's the weird thing about WoW is there's 39 specs. I think there's like 26 or 27 DPS specs. So let's just keep it to just DPS for a second. You should technically be happy if you are the average, right? Like if you're in the middle, you're not bad, you're not good, you're average. But that's not true. People are not happy if they're the average because sometimes the average doesn't get invited to groups. You want to be like above average probably. And so because of that, naturally like 70 to 80% of the player base, if they really care about their class's power level, are always mad because they're not okay with being average. So typically that shows itself in these tier lists too. All right, I'm just gonna start calling people. All right, calling Moonkin Man.
Yo, what's up?
Oh my God, you're so. 1 second, it's not your fault. I had you turned up to 190. Holy shit.
Oh. Hello,
okay.
Way too dang.
Yeah. Okay, hello. So nice seeing you at the con, but I need some information for you today. Very secret information. I need for you to tell me how good you think Moonkin is in PvE this next patch.
Yeah. Are you talking about just raid, or are you talking about both raid and Mythic Plus?
Both. You can speak about both, but we're gonna combine the ranking.
I was also told to tell you that I love you.
Oh, this early? Wow. Okay. Well, love you too.
They told me to say it first.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that. It caught me off guard.
I think it's pretty good in Mythic Plus. I would say it's vying for like the third DPS slot in Mythic Plus behind like Aug and Havoc. You know, both of those specs are pretty strong right now for 5-mans. So it's like I think it's like a pretty good contender for like the third DPS slot. I would like just alone probably having like A tier for Mythic Plus. And then for raid, you know, I'm not like super hot on like a bunch of the Druid specs for raid in general. I think that there's a chance that you bring one for Mark of the Wild. And like balance is fine in raid. It's probably better than it was last year overall. It kind of comes down to the fact that like, do you want to play Resto Druid or Balance Druid again? And like, where's your Mark of the Wild coming from? I think that it would probably be like B tier for raid. That's kind of what I'm thinking.
Okay.
I would probably put an A as a total though, because I think it's a bit more reliable to see raids and guilds bring it as Mark of the Wild. Because I think I've seen some speculation that Mistweaver is going to be like Mystic Touchbringer, and so then it's like it'd be a bit difficult to get a Resto Druid in.
Okay.
I'm thinking.
No, I like the thinking.
And so if you're seeing one Balance Druid in raid, and then it's like a pretty good option for Mythic Plus, I think it almost has to be A.
So I want to point out something in chat. People are like sandbagging. They think it's better than. I want to point out one thing about Moonkin. I'm not going to talk about its power level at all, but I do want to point out that whenever you guys talk about what classes are good, you never think of defensiveness. And here's an example of that. Shadow Priest was playing Night Fae at the beginning of Shadowlands.
Yeah.
Which had Cheat Death, had the pod, and you had Soul Shape. And there was a sim that came out that had Necrolord less than 0.5% single target ahead of Night Fae, and every priest went Necrolord, and they didn't even question it. And that's fucking ridiculously stupid. 0.5% DPS is not worth a cheat death, and Soul Shape alone on a fight probably gains you 0.5% DPS just from not having to move somewhere and being able to blink. But people don't fucking think about that. People are just fucking like damaged cavemen that don't think about anything else. So my point is, Moonkin is unbelievably squishy. Like
it is the squishiest I've ever seen.
It's I think it's the squishiest class in the game, and I think you probably need a beacon on like for like world first progression. Not saying you are or are not playing a Moonkin, but if you did, you would need like beacon on them on fights for them to not die. Like their hunters are tankier. Fucking everything is tankier.
I this most recent tier, like pretty much every single boss I was getting a beacon on, and this isn't like world first progression level. This is like world 40th progression level. I was getting a beacon on every single boss. Rash Shock would slam the ground every single time. I am in grave danger of dying. It is like I don't know how to live on that spec.
Like, yeah, guys, Moonkin can go bear form like on like Razageth when things are exploding, but like on ticking damage, that feels bad. It hurts your damage, and it's like really, really dog shit. So I'm not saying that you're right or wrong. It's just that I don't think people really think about that or talk about it.
I think that's less important for Mythic Plus content, generally speaking, this tier. I think that more often than not, Mythic Plus is like, can I survive getting one shot? And bear form is like objectively pretty good at that. For raid, you know, I think that this dungeon has like a lot of ambient and like rot damage, which is quite scary. I don't know what exactly you're supposed to do about that. Like, it might end up being a situation where you're. I think it's fine damage wise, but yeah, you might just bring the Resto Druid because defensively it's too weak.
Okay.
I heard you're gassing up Feral though. I heard you were gassing up Feral in stream. People keep telling me that.
I didn't say shit. I haven't talked about Feral ever. I was just talking to Psybear, and he was talking about it.
People. No, not today. But people kept coming to my stream over the past like month and were like, "Max says Feral's bis," and I'm like, "What?"
I've never talked about a class being bis ever. I've literally never done that before a raid.
Okay.
So that's for sure made up. But I may have been like, you know, people are sleeping on Feral like a month ago or so, but there's no way I would have talked about its power. I think it has to be someone else, but yeah.
All right.
Nah, Feral fucking sucks. Fuck Feral. Who knows? Or it's awesome. Who knows? All right. So we have two questions for you. Do you think Moonkin is in the Meta Mythic Plus comp next patch? Yes or no?
Oh god. What can you define that?
There's a group of 5. Like there's a god comp this patch. Is Moonkin in that comp next patch?
I'm gonna go with no.
Okay. And
I think
then
there are more mage players.
Okay, so you say no. Do you how are there, and if so, how many Moonkins are in the world first kill of Fyrakk?
Like 20? Like out of all 20 players?
Yeah. Like how many the world first Fyrakk kill, fast forward 2 weeks from now, how many Moonkins are in on that comp? One. Okay.
1 is my projection.
1 Moonkin. All right, so you think it's close to being in on the Mythic Plus patch, and you think there's gonna be 1 in raid, so it looks like a good patch for the old Moonkin.
Yeah, definitely been better. Definitely been worse. It's not that bad. It's pretty good.
All right, hell yeah. All right, thanks for the call. We already got the love stuff out of the way, so that's good. But I don't have to try to ghost you at the end after saying it.
All right, GG's
All right,
Max.
see you, man.
See you later.
Yep. I'm gonna call Dorki real quick because I know he had something to say about Moonkin.
Hello?
Hey, man.
Oh, hey. What up?
So you told me that Moonkin needed to go in DDDD, but I just talked to Tettles and he put it mid A. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I was actually just in this chat a little bit earlier. I think A is fair, you know, like it's got its problems, right?
Yeah.
It's got some advantages.
Okay. Yeah, we like that. That's good. All right, so you agree with it then? All good.
Yeah. I don't have a gun pointed to my head or anything.
There's never been any. You have brought up guns multiple times today. There's never been a gun. But yeah.
Oh yeah, of course not.
Yeah, it's been $1 million. But yeah, okay. All right, thank you. See ya. All right, I'm calling Preet. Hello?
Yo, what's up?
Hey.
How's it going?
Yeah, I was going to call and I wanted to ask a few things. I was going to ask you about AUG and Dev Evoker and their power level and like talk about it a bit for this patch. But I also don't have a mage at the moment. Are you still caught up on mage? Like, would you consider yourself a mage expert, or are you going more down the Evoker train?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, my fire mage is like 448, done all the content on it. So yeah, I can answer any questions you have about fire specifically. I don't really want to talk too much about the other two.
Okay, then I'll probably just call another person to do all the mages. That's fine.
Yeah,
that is okay.
That's good.
All right, cool. So we are talking. We can start with augmentation or devastation first. You play a fair bit of both of those, right? I know you were creating content for both.
Yeah. So, do you want to start with like the god one, the OP one?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So yeah, so the question is like, is it going to be used or what's the format here?
No, the question is like you have to find a combined rating for raid and Mythic Plus in general, and then also just you have a brief amount of time to kind of talk about both of those and how well you think they'll do.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, augmentation still is the only support spec in the game, so it's going to be the de facto choice for Evoker in Mythic Plus. I don't see any world where you play Devastation Mythic Plus unless you already have an augmentation Evoker or you're not doing challenging content. Period. In the story. I mean, they could even nerf it like probably like 30% more, and it would still be the case, right? And it's not anything really about Devastation's power. It's more so just the power of a support spec and the fact there's only one of them, right? So yeah, Aug is going to be the choice for Mythic Plus. It's S tier. Every group's going to want an augmentation evoker. I'd be very surprised if God Comp doesn't have Aug in there. Shocked, really.
Okay, and then what about for raid? You said you think early as well?
Yeah. So for raid, I think you're gonna have 2 at least. Augmentation seems to have damage that's just absurd. The amount that you can scale the damage to by min-maxing it, right? Getting those analysts to figure out all the spreadsheet timings and get everything sorted is just crazy. It's gonna way outperform any other DPS if you min-max it to a T. For most people though, I think playing it, especially if you're like doing content where it's not as organized, you know, you're not like in the top end or whatever. It's still going to do really well. Like you'll still do competitive damage, but it's not going to be as overpowered. Like you're going to see some crazy augmentation damage with the min-maxing that y'all and Echo are doing. So yeah, I think at raid you want at least 2 of them. I would be very surprised if you don't want 2. And then I think you could even swing up to 4 potentially. It still has a lot of value. Obviously you have less value after the first 2, but you still have a ton of value there. Especially if you're min-maxing it. But I do think in raid, there's actually kind of a neat little meta that you might want to try out instead, which is you have the 2 Augs, and then you have 2 Augs or 2 Evokers that are kind of like swing Evokers. They can go either way. So maybe they're Devastation on certain fights, and then they swing Augmentation. But overall, my prediction for Mythic Plus, or sorry, for raid is going to be is 4 Evokers. I think 4 DPS Evokers is like really nice.
Okay. So it sounds like you'd put it in the very highest tier then.
Yeah. I think Devastation actually kind of gains a little value in this case because it's like if you're gearing up a Dev, it's like they can just swing Aug. Dev is already pretty good in raid. The damage is quite good, and they even buffed it a little bit. I think it's gonna be really fantastic on Tendril, Sage Swift, T Swift. That one's gonna be really good for it. You can do a ton of AoE damage basically for free. You also have like free shield damage as well with Unravel, which works with your new mastery. Overall, the numbers are like pretty spicy on it. I could definitely see a world where you run like a bunch of hunters and maybe it isn't as good because you just got like a whole bunch of MM in the raid. So I guess there's like some things you have to consider with the other pieces in the comp. Yeah, I think overall like bringing 4 DPS Evokers to the raid and having 2 be like hard set Aug is probably like a good strategy for most guilds.
Okay, where do you think you'd put Dev based on its own power level on a tier list?
Ooh, Dev. Okay, I think Dev is like strong A tier. I'm not going to say it's S because S is Aug, right? And there's just, it's not.
Well,
S.
so the other 2 things in S right now are Havoc and Enhanced. Do you think Aug needs to be on its own tier, or do you think it fits well in that tier?
Yeah, I think Aug has an Aug tier above everything, honestly. Like it's, or just like the fact that it's support is just like so busted. Yeah, they haven't nerfed it hardly enough. New Aug tier.
Yeah, I'm doing it. I'm setting its color.
Let's go.
All right, sounds good. And then you said Dev would be high A. Yeah, I do think that's one thing that's like kind of sucks in general. Before I get to the end of this, and that is that Aug, like Dev is actually a really good spec, and it's also really fun. Like they actually ended up making a really fun DPS spec this patch, but players who want to play it feel like they can't because they feel forced to play Aug in most guilds, and I feel like that feels bad for sure.
Yeah, you aren't him. Him is Aug, right? That's him, and you're not him.
Yeah.
But you're good. You're really good. Like it's just, you know, we gotta remember that there's a way crazier spec that you share the same class with. So that has like such a weird downstream effect and like all the content, and especially like the Mythic Plus stuff where you can like only have one of a class. So yeah, Dev is always going to be overlooked so long as Aug exists. It's just it's wild.
All right, I put Aug in him tier. All right, so I have 2 questions for you. So this sounds, I think you've already answered this, but the question is, do you think that Aug and Dev are in the Mythic Plus like meta comp in this patch?
Dev, no. I don't think Dev is unless it's like you're doing some wacky stuff. No, I don't think so. I think the Mythic Plus comp is solidly augmentation, and I think if you like playing Devastation, you're probably not going to be in mini keys unless there's already an Aug in there. So
okay.
Yeah, I don't think it's bad though. It's just, you know, once again, you could just play Aug, which is way better.
Okay, you have right now, you can't say it's going to be 2 or 4 or whatever you're saying before. You have to put it on wax. How many Evokers and what specs are they in the World First Kill of Fyrakk?
World First Ferric Kill. Okay. With your min-maxing, I could see it being 4 Aug.
So you're saying 4. Okay.
Yeah, I think okay, so it's really tough, right? Because I need to see the fight to tell you, but like I could see it being 4 more than, it's like a 51 to 49%. So I'm just gonna go with my gut here.
Okay. All right. So firmly in the him tier then. All right. That's all I needed. Thanks for the call, man. And nice to see you at BlizzCon.
Yeah. Thanks for dinner. That was great.
Oh yeah. That was really fun. All right. See you later, man.
All right, later.
Yeah. So we got that out of the way. We need a Magus, and Kalamazzi, I think, said he could go. Calling him up.
Hello.
Hello. How you doing, man?
All right. Good. Can you hear me all right? Or
Yeah, I can hear you good. You're good.
cool. I got my voice.
Oh, are you still recovering from BlizzCon?
Yeah, my voice is gone from the yelling, but I'm good. How are you, man?
I am excellent. You are tasked with today of kind of talking about the 3 Warlock specs and trying to find a combined rating for Mythic Plus and Raid for how strong they're going to be in PvE next patch. Do you understand the assignment?
Yeah, is it one universal rating for PvP and for Mythic Plus and rating?
They are not separate. It is universal between the two of them. Yeah.
Sounds good.
You can start wherever you want.
Okay, let me see what we got here. Swamp Ass ain't no way. What is one at the top? Is that like?
That's for AUG only, probably.
Oh, okay, perfect. Oh, yeah, well, we're not going up there. Don't worry, it's fine. I guess we can just start with Demonology. Demo got like a lot of overhauls this patch, right? A decent overhaul. Shifted away from like the 1.5-minute Tyrant, big like Ring of Tyranny damage, just more like sustained damage. It's actually not bad in Plus. Like it's not meta, but it's not like horrendous either. I'd probably throw it like for like it's better in Plus than it is rating. I think by a decent bit. I think range is sort of in the raid overall. Like, a couple classes are good, but I'd probably throw a Demo in like if you're looking at both, probably B tier. Honestly, I think it's probably the best spec we have in the raid.
The best spec you think Warlocks have in the raid is B tier?
I swear, honestly, I mean, well, if you're looking at Plus and rating combined, I put it in A for Plus, but I don't know, I probably so.
This seems like one of those weird tiers where everyone says that Warlock is bad, and then they find some secret, they proc a secret build that no one knew about, and they just end up being better than everyone else, as always.
I mean, there are some fights with damage amps, like Smolderon and stuff, where some versions of Warlock can be really good with short cooldowns, but it's also hard to set up certain things in fights like that. I mean, if you're talking just pure Plus, I give it A. If you're talking raid, it's probably B, so I'd say like B plus-ish for both combined overall for Demo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, then Affliction is still bugged. It's been bugged since day one of beta or of PTR. It should have like pretty wild burst in Mythic Plus, but it's still bugged. So I probably give it like, it has some utility in the some relevancy in the raid on certain fights. It's not even that bad in a single target either. It's pretty simple, similar to like 10-1 stuff. I probably put it like in B tier as well. Some fights you'll play it over Demo, probably due to the half-minute damage profile that our tier bonus has.
You said that's Destro? Destro, you said?
That's Affliction, I'm sorry.
Oh, Affliction?
Yeah.
Okay.
I throw it like B tier, a little bit below Demonology if you're doing like...
Yeah, I have them, yeah.
Yeah, I probably put it like probably around where Rhett's at roughly, but it's not terrible. Like it does what it does well. It has a good damage profile. Just I feel like it's not tuned as good, like as high as it should be.
Yeah.
It feels good to play though overall. So if they fix the bugs with it in Mythic Plus, then it'll be pretty solid. Probably like A tier. But we had the same bug in 10.0 for the whole patch and it was never fixed. So it's been fixed, broken, I guess essentially since beta. So I mean, like for Destro, I mean Destro is a mess, man. Destro's 4-piece is a 1% DPS gain from its 2-piece.
Oh my god.
It needs God. You're right. Yeah, it's really bad.
That is so bad.
And it forces you into playing a talent that's good in single target, basically only because they nerfed the cleave on it. I mean, I think it depends on your approach to certain fights. This raid tier, but I wouldn't put it in C. Like, and in Mythic Plus, they nerfed like your 1-minute Infernals and mass AoE. You can't go below 2 minutes now. So I'd probably put it like higher end, above Feral and Swamp Ass. But like, it's got a lot of issues that need to be looked at. Hopefully, like an overhaul angle at some point.
Oh damn. Yeah, I do think Destro, because there's been good versions of Destro. It's always been like the easy, like you understand how Havoc works. You have it's like easy spending, keeping up a simple dot, spending with Chaos Bolt, generating with everything else. But I feel like there's been cooler versions of it in the past, and it's kind of lost and doesn't really know what it wants to do. I don't know if it needs like Kill Jaden's Cunning again or something like that, but it just doesn't feel different enough from the other Warlock specs, and I just don't think it's very fun personally. But
yeah. I agree. And like the nerfs to like the sub 2-minute Infernal build Mythic Plus just make it rough. Your tier bonus feeds into a talent that's like really only good in single target. So you just possibly don't even play your tier bonus in Mythic Plus. It's really rough right now. So yeah. I just think range in general are a little rough this tier, barring a couple specs here and there. Like Demo's not a great PI target anymore. It's fine, not as good as last tier. So like, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a question. So how do you think Warlock is meta in Mythic Plus this patch, and if so, what spec?
I don't think it's meta. I think it's close-ish to meta. Demonology. It's like on the outside looking in. It's not Havoc or Enhanced or whatever like you have higher. It's like one of the better class, like A tier for Mythic Plus for Demo. But overall, combining it, it's probably B tier.
Okay.
M plus raid.
And then same question for raid. You have to predict how many and what spec of Warlock are in on the first kill of Mythic Fire Rack.
I mean, I haven't seen the fight. But I mean,
I can describe it for you briefly if you want.
I've seen. You can elaborate if you want a little bit. I've looked at it in the journal, but not as much. I probably should have.
Okay.
Sure, go ahead. Help me
So
out here.
P1's like 100 to 70. There's not many other ads that you really have to worry about. Decent movement. First intermission is going to be like 20 to 25 seconds probably, with like a decent amount of soaking. So you might have to move a little bit, but it could be handled by other things. P2 is going to be the longest phase. The boss will fly up sometimes, and you'll have to burst down 2 very high health like Colossus that have like a little short and rage on them. So like some 2-target burn. And then maybe some 3-target boss cleave as well if the boss comes down during that time. That's like the longest phase. And then there's like last phase will be, I don't know the exact health, but like roughly 40 to 0 for the last phase, which has Halandra's bombs in it.
Oh, sick. I didn't see the bombs. I saw the rest of that, though. That's interesting. I mean, honestly, I could see, too, if we get buffs, which you probably need. There's some decent profiles there, I feel like, from maybe Destro and possibly Af, even Demo. But, I mean, I think we're without current tuning, probably 1, honestly. But I could be wrong. I think probably just 1.
Okay, so you have to agree on it. It cannot be 2 things, and you have to say what the spec is. You got to put it on wax. Confident.
With current tuning being the way that it is, 1 Warlock, and, I mean, it's probably Af or Demo. Probably Demo. It sounds like a good Destro fight with the intermission, but I think Destro's just too bad, honestly. It's just too rough right now. I'd probably say 1 and Demo.
Okay, 1 and Demo. All right, that's all I needed. Thank you for the information and the good times at BlizzCon over the weekend.
Yeah, no problem. It's good seeing you. I'll see you again soon.
Yep, see you, man. Yep.
See you, dude.
Yep, love you, bye. Public roll call. Let's not end with the Shadow Priest. That's gonna let's get that out of the way early so we can end on a high note. Hello?
Hello?
Hey, man.
What's going on?
Yeah, I'm looking to talk about Priest, Shadow Priest's patch. You guys had a decent amount of changes. You guys just had like a patch or 2 where you were real fucking strong. So how's it looking for PvE going into 10.2?
Well, I'm definitely not feeling great, I'll be honest.
Okay.
So I think the highlights here, we're losing damage going into the patch, which was,
That's a highlight, okay.
That's a highlight. And I think if you look at raid DPS specifically, we already weren't in a great spot. Like, we're already kind of lower bottom of the pack. So getting nerfed in terms of raid doesn't feel great. And we're just like losing damage even with new tier. And even if you factor in PI, which has now been nerfed, it's like even less of a cushion, I guess is what you would call it.
Okay.
Where like you could be like, well, if you factor in PI damage, the spec was pretty competitive, but now that's even worse. You're talking like half as good almost as what it used to be.
Okay.
So that's pretty bad.
Sounding bad, yeah.
Now, they did give us an execute-based tier set, which I do want to put some value in. I think having damage and execute is good. I think the struggle is a little bit, you're kind of like, depending on how long that execute is where your damage, it becomes good or really bad. So that's a little concerning. And with that, our execute is better, but we're also killing ourselves to do good execute damage. So a spec that's already pretty squishy. I don't think we're quite as bad as like balanced Druid necessarily, but it's not great. We have a lot of self-healing too, so we're kind of have that blood decay effect where we're just doing a lot of healing to try to counter damage intake, but we don't have a whole lot of DR, if that makes sense. And now that Spore Cloak is nerfed, particularly from like a defensive perspective, I know they kind of gutted the like offensive value with it, but I still think, at least in the previous raid tier, it was like nice to have as a I want to be defensive. There's still like that neck that we might run if you're struggling defensively, but yeah, that's a little worried about that, I think, for raids. Yeah, raid overall definitely in a worse spot than we were before, for sure.
Okay.
And here's a fun tidbit on PTR. There was like a hot minute. Discipline Priest was almost beating Shadow damage on single target. That's how down bad we were. So that was exciting.
That's not good. Yeah, okay, that's really bad. That's a healer, yeah. Okay, so that's fun. And then, so Mythic Plus and Raid, where do you think the, like, combined power level, like, going into this patch is?
Yeah, I mean, Mythic Plus, we're basically competing with tank DPS, and not even just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. When you balance the spec around execute damage, execute isn't really a big thing in Mythic Plus, especially because, like, as a pack is dying, like, things are dying off, you're doing less damage anyway. So, yeah, competing with tank damage, not a good spot where you want to be, and we're like mega target capped. The kit just doesn't do damage in Mythic Plus, and you can't just like simply solve it by aura buffing the spec. Like, that won't do anything. It'll just cause a bigger problem. And they like turbo nerfed our utility this season as I think a gut reaction to how overpowered the dungeon pool was in season 2. And the new dungeon pool is so much less priest friendly, so we're easily at the bottom of swamp ass. I would almost go as far to say we're down with Windwalkers, although not quite as bad. And we were sent to hell for the sins of Augmentation Evoker. They were just like, this spec did ungodly things with that, and you got punished for it. So yeah, pretty bad, man. If I had to put it up, I would honestly do it either right at the bottom of Swamp Ass or right above Windwalker.
You got to pick one.
I'm going right above Windwalker purely because I'm scared that you can't just aura buff to fix the problems it has in Mythic Plus, and I think that's the concern for me.
Okay. Now I have to ask you some tough questions. Well, they're not like tough to answer, but they're just going to be tough to ask you knowing the answer of them. Yeah, so number one is Shadow Priest in the meta Mythic Plus comp next patch?
That's a no for me, dog.
Okay, so there's a no there. And then also, in the world first kill of Fyrak, how many Shadow Priests are in the comp?
It's a big old fat 0.
Okay, well, that was quick, but yeah.
I mean, part of that's like, it's kind of easy because I think Disc is looking so strong. I think in both cases that the big value that we brought was power infusion, and since they also nerfed it, I don't know, it feels pretty easy to answer the questions. So
okay, yeah, no, that's thank you for the time, man. Did you make it out to BlizzCon at all? I didn't see you.
Unfortunately couldn't. I wanted to, but yeah, I saw. I mean, it looks like folks had fun. It was pretty.
It was
pretty awesome.
huge. Yeah, I really think especially all creators should go. It's just like so cool to see all the people. You very rarely get to see people who do what you do and stuff like that. And all the Theorycraft Discord people.
Doom, and I wanted to go so bad. We just got a new puppy, so I really couldn't travel. Didn't want to leave him by himself too much. So yeah, I had to stay home. But next time for sure.
Okay, cool. All right, hell yeah, man. Thanks for the convo.
Yep, love you. Bye.
See you later. Oh, fuck. Okay, fuck. I'm calling Azor. I'm just moving on. Hey, man.
Hello.
Hey, all right, so back again. Talked to you earlier. I didn't think I was going to get through all these today, but we got a little lucky extension, or I guess unlucky, depending on your perspective. Yeah, so I want you to talk to me about Hunter. So BM was like riding high for a while in the PTR for this, and MM was like was in dire straits, like was just the worst possible situation. Then they got a pretty cool bursty AoE tier set. So what is your thoughts on both of these for combined Mythic Plus and raid rankings?
Yeah, okay, so Hunter generally is one of the biggest news that affects all the specs is obviously we got a raid buff now, or raid debuff, if you want to call it that, in Hunter's Mark. It's like 1% raid DPS on a single target, and you can swap that target around. It's okay, because it basically secures Hunter's a raid spot in most cases, provided the tuning is there, and the tuning is mostly there. But we do wish it was, so it only works above 80% health, which feels super arbitrary and really sucks, like practically, because it means there's a huge pressure to put up Hunter's Mark really early on a target. Because like if you put it on a 95% HP target, like half a second into its life, well then you've wasted 25% of its value, right?
Yeah.
So it would be nice if it was just a flat 1% or 2%, because 2% would, eliminate discussions of bringing a second
whether it
or
was
something
good or
else
not, and
opportunity
then
for that.
also other damage increasing buffs like Chaos Brand and like Mystic Touch are around that like 2 to 3% value
across the
anyway.
way, exactly. And
Yeah.
those AoE or just whatever the applicator is hitting. And that's another thing. Like the single target limitation is just really rough because it's okay for raid, it gets us a raid spot, but where Hunter really struggles for viability is in Mythic Plus, and it does nothing to help that. Like very little. You would never bring a Hunter for Hunter's Mark in Mythic Plus.
Yeah, definitely not.
And that brings me into this other thing, which is Sentinel Owl, which is this dead sort of supposed to be group/raid utility that sits over in the class tree and never gets used. The theme of that ability is based on this old Legion ability called Sentinel, which would apply Hunter's Mark in an AoE fashion. I'm not saying there's something, potential synergy there, but I feel like it would be knocking out two birds with one stone.
Yeah, definitely.
So then there's Wailing Arrow, which is a BM and MM thing. It's stuck in the spec tree for both, which really sucks. So it's this AoE kick we have, or AoE silence. It's actually pretty good. The problem is, it has a cast time and it has a travel time, just like other ranged abilities.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and when you add that together, it means you cannot really use it to reactively kick most things. Unless you're sitting there holding the global, which you don't want to do, because in Mythic Plus, especially, you're going to want to pump, especially in the opener.
Yeah.
Whereas, for example, like a solar beam, you can more or less, you can assign a beam to a particular kick in your Mythic Plus kick rotation. You cannot do that with Wailing Arrow. So, it would be nice if Wailing Arrow was either instant cast or had no travel time, or both. I guess thematically it needs some travel time, just because it would be weird to fire a shot that lands in a millisecond. But it definitely should be instant, and it should be moved to the class tree, because right now both MM and BM take big DPS losses to go grab Wailing Arrow, which just sucks. Like, they designed this talent. We don't get to use it because it's just a big DPS loss. It's clearly meant to go into class tree.
Yeah, that's definitely a fix they could make. What do you think about the damage capability of both of these classes?
Yeah, so BM is getting a pretty sizable sort of, I guess you can call it a buff. So basically when the servers come up, all BM hunters, based on no tier set or any new gear at all, we're just going to be 10 to 15% stronger because of these new talents. So that's pretty good. BM is generally looking stronger for all content than it was damage-wise. So it still has a lot of dead talents in its tree. One of these new talents is Savagery, which extends your Frenzy buff, which is this maintenance buff that most BM hunters are familiar with, by 2 seconds. And BM is known to be a very, very easy spec. It has almost never been this brain dead as it's going to be in 10.2, because now you don't even have to think about Frenzy either, because the extension makes it so brain dead. But that's okay. It's okay that there's a spec that's really easy, and it also happens to be pretty strong. So BM still has a really big single target loss to do full AoE, but it's been partially mitigated because we have this new cool talent called Bloody Frenzy, which basically means that we have 20 seconds of free Beast Cleave, so just automatic cleave during our new 2-minute cooldown, Call of the Wild.
Oh, that's sick. So you don't have to that's okay. That's because before you had to spend so many points to get that, and it felt really bad. But now, if there's based on certain fights, you could actually play your full single target build and just utilize your cleave just from that cooldown then, if it lined up
like that.
Yeah,
you take exactly, and you take a few % single target loss to get that, but you get quite a lot of value out of that, a lot of mileage. For example, Larodar, for example, I think the ad timings are roughly spaced out 2 minutes. So you can just go grab this one talent, Bloody Frenzy, and you just pop your CDs when these ads up, and you do tons of passive cleave at a very small single target loss. And so that's both fun and really good. So we're happy with that, but it's still, especially when we're looking at some other specs, both at BM and MM lose a lot of single target to do full AoE capability, which also hurts them in Mythic Plus, where, single target is also pretty important. So that brings us to MM, which, so it was in dire straits, as you mentioned earlier on, and they reworked the entire tier set. And so long story short, it's much better than it was. It's actually a reasonably strong tier set, especially on AoE. And anyone who's seen some clips of MM on PTR Mythic Plus, they'll know the burst AoE is completely bonkers. It's still capped, but from my sims and stuff, despite it being capped at 6 or 8, depending on some talents you pick, it can outburst some of the uncapped specs like BM Hunter pretty handily. Okay. So MM is a turbo AoE burst king. The single target still sucks though, so you would need the problem, for example, think of the most AoE heavy fight in the raid. Well, it's Nalroot, the first boss, but the problem is that's uncapped AoE for the most part, so MM is going to be pretty bad there. In Mythic Plus it's okay, but then the single target kind of holds it back compared to Survival, which has really good single targets in its AoE build. I think MM is going to be really fun, but I don't think it's going to be meta or super good in Mythic Plus or raid, just based on how hyper focused on burst AoE that it is, at the expense of everything else. And of course MM has the weakest utility of them all.
Yeah, is MM target capped?
MM is target capped, so it's partially, well, for the most part it's target capped. It has one ability in volley that's uncapped, but baseline trick shots, the stuff that makes aim shot and rapid fire do AoE damage, that's capped at 6 targets, and it even has a minimum cap of 3 targets, which is really annoying. MM cannot do 2 target or cleave, which is just, it feels so arbitrary and punishing for no reason, because it's not they're trying to curb MM being OP in other places. It would be nice if it didn't have that minimum target cap. But it caps at either 6 or 8, depending on the talent choice you can make.
All right, so now it has come down, there's 3 questions. First one is, where do each of these go in the list so far, combined?
So BM I would put in the A tier because, it's got the raid spot now. The AoE is pretty strong. The single target is strong as well. It's kind of a good all-rounder. It's pretty easy to play. Obviously, the mobility always gives it a little bit of a boost, especially for relatively new players. And MM I would put in B, just because it's not nearly as sort of versatile. It loses a lot of single target to the AoE, and then it doesn't have a lot of single target to begin with, which really hurts its raid viability. And it's missing some of the utility benefits of BM, because MM has a lot of trouble dipping into some of the pet utility that Survival and BM have no trouble getting to. So yeah, MM rides or dies on its tuning.
And how do
tuning has been
you
good in some ways,
how do you feel about, so BM you put an A, is that ahead or behind Survival?
It's probably a little bit ahead, just based on... So survival is like reliant on this trinket that's not even in its loot table, so you can't even get it in the vault. You have to steal it from another spec. It's the Cataclysmic Signet Brand, I believe it's called. Yeah, and it also partially relies on its, fire egg weapon. And then obviously there's a bit of a melee tax in because all the specs, both of the specs above it, like in the Deep Dick Dolly Dumpster tier, both of those are melee, so it's going to be competing with those. I think you'd rather bring a second Havoc or maybe even Enhancement over a Survival Hunter. So that's why I put it below BM, but still within the same tier. I think the most exciting thing about Survival is that it's so versatile in Mythic Plus, in that like the AoE build does a ton of single target damage, and even its single target build does a lot of AoE damage, which is something the other two specs specifically don't have. So Survival is pretty good, but I think BM, just from the flexibility, ease of play, it being ranged, it's just a little bit better.
Awesome. Okay, sweet. And then I have 2 more questions for you. Number 1, is Hunter in the Meta Mythic Plus comp this patch?
Not at all. So Hunter's Mark, it's just not good enough. It's basically useless in Mythic Plus. The AoE damage is just not there, especially when you look at some of the DD specs. So it's just missing in some of these capabilities to be good in AoE, and it has no utility to make up for its sort of like average damage. The problem is, like, to be in the meta, you need really, really good damage and insane utility, or something that's just really, really good. None of the Hunter specs have amazing damage, and none of them have a particularly good utility for Mythic Plus.
Okay, and then another question. How many Hunters are in on the world first kill of Fyrak, and what spec?
Fyrak is... I just don't know the fight that well, because it wasn't tested.
Majorly single target with a 40% to 0 execute, and in P2 there is 2 target cleave that you have to burst down in time.
That sounds pretty good for Survival, to be honest, because Survival has stronger single target. Like, I think you'd play like Survival single target build, just because like you're still gonna do amazing cleave to that 2 target, and you just have so if BM wants to cleave those 2 targets, it's gonna have to sacrifice quite a bit of a single target damage to do it. So I think that sounds like a Survival fight to me, based on the description you just gave.
There's also Halandrus bombs in the last phase.
Halandrus bombs. Yeah, okay. So I mean, I don't know how much harder that is for melee than ranged. I think But I don't think that should count against Survival in a particular way. Like, it has extended melee range, if that ends up mattering. Like, I don't have a visual of the fight in my head. I'm just basing it on what you told me.
Okay, cool. So you're guessing you think 1 Survival. You think you're bringing a Survival Hunter.
I think Survival could be quite good in that fight, tuning pending.
Okay, all right. It has been put in stone. All right, thank you for the talk, man.
All right, thanks. Love you.
Yep. So, bye. Love you too. Woohoo! Got that one. All right, I'm gonna call him. Hello?
Hello? What's up?
Hey, nothing much. Yo, we met at BlizzCon, right?
Yeah. We saw each other a few times.
Okay.
Like, the upper area and then at the Hilton.
Yeah, guys, the upper area, very, very important people area. You guys would not know.
VIPs, yes.
Yeah, very VIP. All right, hell yeah. So this first time we're kind of doing this on stream, but I kind of wanted a take from you on the overall combined Mythic Plus and Raid power level of the 3 Mage specs, and some time to kind of talk about each one of them and some of the changes.
Yeah. So like, if I'm weighing 50-50 on Raid and Mythic Plus on when I rate it, so
yeah.
If I would start with the worst of the 3, so first off, I want to say that Mage's utility is broken across literally all 3 specs. Like, I'm not even gonna sandbag that at all. And the Raid buff they bring is insane, and that buff is insane to Mythic Plus because of him. If you know who we're talking about.
Oh yeah, I know him.
Yeah, him. So to start off, I think the worst of the 3, I think goes A for Arcane. I think
the worst is an A. Hell yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think the worst is an A. Like, Arcane, like, it's very good in Raid, right? But I think it suffers a little problem in Mythic Plus, where cooldown timings kind of matter. Where if you don't have your cooldowns, you don't do that good of damage. And I think classes that do consistent damage, like say Fire Frost, kind of excel harder. So that's my take.
Okay.
On Arcane. And then I would put both Fire and Frost in DDD tier, personally.
Ooh. Okay.
I think they're really good. So Frost is numerically insane. I think it does, like, obviously it buffs the AUG. Like, don't forget that. It buffs the AUG. It brings Master. It has like 5 different buttons to press, and except for personals. And it lines up 2 minutes with the AUG, right? Breath lines up with Icy Veins. I just think it's numerically insane, and Mage is just super strong. And then Fire is somewhat the same thing. It also has consistent damage, and it lines up CDs with AUG. But Fire is running around with the cheat death and like 40% versatility stacked up. So
yeah, and like infinite movement and
it's like you don't
insane
like
defensive.
These classes like Fire and Frost, they can run around and do their rotation. They don't suffer at all,
and they can never die. Yeah.
And if you think about it, like every ability, like one problem I have of Arcane is that it has so much RNG the damage. Like you need your spells to crit and you need procs. Fire and Frost, like all of their spells just crit. So like I think that's just insane. And there's no RNG to these specs. It's like it's just very consistent and always performing. So that's why I think Frost and Fire are just insane.
Okay.
I would put Arcane higher if it was a little less RNG, I think.
Okay.
And it wasn't so like cooldown based.
So you have like 3 very different damage profiles and also like different playstyle mage specs. So mages are eating good this patch. So I have
like
go ahead.
I would say like, you know, like going back to the utility, like so many stops, so many ways to help your group. Like Mass Barrier is like the best thing for Mythic Plus. I think it's good in Raid too. It's just so solid. And like the buffs they're bringing is just insane. Like I can't even. I think Aug is the bigger problem when it comes to Arcane Int and keys.
Yeah, because of the interaction. Yeah.
Yeah, but think about it. Like if you're doing a key with an Aug and a Mage, like just think how much stronger your healer is from the Int buff and then the Ebonite buff. Like your healer is just healing so much stronger. Like this is easy.
Oh yeah, it's insane. All right, so Mythic Plus. Is there a mage in the meta Mythic Plus comp next patch? And if so, what spec?
Yes, and it's gonna be Frost, in my opinion.
Oh,
just because
shit.
I think they just do so much damage in every target count. I was hitting the target dummy for 5 targets earlier, and my 2 set is doing 15% of my damage on 5 targets. Just my 2 set, and that just blows my mind because it's just such a strong tier set.
Okay, so you have
I'm loving it.
Frost. All right, now the big
And
one.
then also I want to say I think that Frost will. I think when Sanguine comes into effect, I think Frost goes to Ain't No Way. That's one thing I'll
interesting.
mention.
Well, they did just
So when
nerf
you have,
it, but yeah, it's gonna
yes,
make
but
it,
I still think it's an Ain't No Way moment because you need to shatter things to do damage.
So you'd just be healing them. So you would just play
Yeah,
fire
you just
in
be
that
healing
scenario.
the mobs. Yeah, so in that scenario, that's where I think you swap to Fire. Like Fire and Frost are like very interchangeable. They complement each other well. And also, I think if the meta is to snap swords in a Talazar, Arcane and Frost can't really do damage when the mobs are snapped because of like orb placement, where Fire can do damage in that scenario.
Okay, in raid, the world first kill of Fyrak, how many mages are in the raid and what spec are they?
2. KSB and Fired Up will be in.
Oh, let's fucking
There it
go.
is.
Okay.
Specs.
What spec? Yeah.
It just depends on the profile. I think if it's like if there's any kind of damage amp, you just automatically bring Arcane. I'm pretty sure because Arcane does burst so freaking high. And then if it's high movement and no downtime, I think you'll bring Fire. If there's Cleave, I think you'll bring Frost. So it just kind of depends on the damage profile. Like I actually think this race you'll see all 3 of the specs.
When was the last time you did see all 3 specs in a raid? Actually, do you remember?
I wanted to say Sepulture, but then I realized you didn't play Mage at all in Words of Dread.
Yep.
So I was gonna, because like I think Frost was the best spec on there, and that would have been a raid, but you didn't play Mage at all there. So I think Rails, I don't know, because it's been a while since you've kind of played Frost in raid. But I think this tier Frost is really good on like any cleave fight. So
Okay. All right. Hell yeah. All right. Thanks for the call, man. Great
Yeah, for
talking to
sure.
you at BlizzCon and meeting you, and then also
Yeah,
thanks
it was
for
awesome to
you were a
meet you.
great like person to have on for this. Very
Oh,
people
thank you.
enjoyed that. Yeah, that was awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. I
All right.
hope you. Thank you. Have a good one.
Yeah, you too. See ya. I wonder what he was gonna say. I hope you have a nice day. I hope you die. All right, now we got to talk to an Ellie Shaman though, right? So who the fuck is playing this thing? So one of my chat earlier said, "Why did I grind to rank 1 Ellie if Max isn't gonna call me on stream?" Who the fuck was that? I think their name was Toasty. Did I read that right? Calling Toasty. Let's see if he answers. Hello?
Hello.
Hello, Toasty. Tell me about yourself.
Yeah, I'm an Ellie Shaman player. I've been stuck on this spec since Legion. It's been a good time.
What do you mean stuck?
By choice. Ellie's a good time. We have our ups and downs. It's a class that maybe Blizzard doesn't pay too much attention to sometimes.
Okay, yeah. So the big topic I think is that you were a part of a small list of people who didn't have raid buffs this expansion, and in a slightly larger list last expansion, and now I think you're the only DPS class in the game that brings no like raid DPS or like increase or some kind of required raid buff. So that's not good. But then tell me about So what about like how do you feel about the class outside of that though? Just like its power level. How you feeling?
So we took a pretty big hit on our tier set, obviously, a couple weeks back now, which was definitely warranted. Ellie was absolutely blasting and testing. Now, numerically, we're looking pretty reasonable. We should still be in the top half on most of the raid fights in terms of raw numbers. Obviously, that's not accounting for the raid buff that we don't bring. I think, it's tough to be a class where you have to earn your spot just by raw damage, right? Like Ellie's relatively squishy. We don't have a raid buff. we're not the best at dealing mechanics. We're mobile, but not like a mage, you know.
So, okay, but that all sounded pretty bad. So, like, what are you good at?
Right now, the numbers are pretty good. The raw single target's pretty good. The spread cleave is exceptional, especially from a funnel perspective, up to 6 targets.
Okay.
So I'd expect to see the council fight's going to be really, really good for us this year.
Okay. I fuck with that. And then also, there's like a little bit of good cleave like that on the last boss too. And then Tendril, you'll have like good damage for every like root set, right? So like you'll have like pretty good damage for a couple of the harder fights. How for a boss like Smolderon that has like really weird damage amps, what are your cooldown timings?
So Ellie's biggest problem is that it doesn't have a particularly good cooldown. Our quote cooldown, our fire elemental is, you know, very, very weak. We're playing a build that's basically very, very flat in damage pattern. So we have small spikes around our primordial wave, but that's about it. So damage amps tend to be pretty bad for us.
Well, that's interesting. If your damage is overall pretty high, you might actually be better than you think on specifically Smolderon's damage amp. Because like people think of Sludge Fist where it was like on a 1 minute, so like obviously everything lined up and like you really wanted CDs. That's not really the case in this. The damage amps are like this really weird time. They're like 138 or something. So like outside of 1.5 minute CDs, which are very uncommon, like everyone kind of feels bad. 2 minutes feel bad. 3 minutes feel like okay. And then like 1 minute, you can use one every damage amp, but you have to delay it for like 50% of its cooldowns. Like that's certainly not good, right? So I think you might be better at that specific damage amp fight than you think, but
that's certainly fair. It feels a little odd during the testing window or during the damage amp windows to not have a big cooldown to press, but we will have that same flat damage for all of them. So lower on some, higher on the others.
Yep. All right, cool. So where do you think Ellie combined Rated Mythic Plus ends up in this patch?
Oh, combined is tough. I'd probably say somewhere in B tier, looking at this list.
Well, where would you, if they were individual, where would you put them?
Probably in A for raid, and maybe at the bottom of B
For Mythic Plus. So we'll put it like top of B, I guess, for both. Okay.
Yeah, that's probably a fair take. Maybe bottom A, top of B.
Okay, sure.
I think it's really tough to again be a class in raid without a raid buff, even if it doesn't feel that bad to play. Damage wise, our rotations feel really trivial right now. We press 2 buttons, so that's a little rough.
Okay, and then I have 2 more questions for you. So, well, okay, is Ellie in the Meta Mythic Plus comp this patch?
Not a chance.
Okay, yeah, let's get that out of the way. And then how many Ellie Shamans are on the world first kill of Mythic Fyrak, do you think?
Absolutely none. I don't think it's reasonable with all of the raid buffs you have to bring, the power of augmentation Evoker, unless there's some specific niche that we can fill on that fight, which again, you know, we didn't test that fight. I don't see it being likely.
Okay, well, that is that's not seeming too good. So you don't have a raid buff, and then also you feel like your damage isn't good enough to be in the raid, so that's not great.
It's the raw single target damage, you know, it's not the end of the world, but when you're a class that can only really bring damage, you have to bring a lot of it.
True. Yep. All right. Thanks for the conversation. This is gonna wrap up our entire thing. So thanks. I haven't been able to talk to you before, but I'll reach out to you about Ellie again in the future.
Cool. Sounds good. Appreciate it.
All right. See you, man. Love you. Bye. All right. We fucking did it, chat. What are the major takeaways here? I wonder if any of the people earlier would have moved their things around, knowing like how it turned, because like that's why this tier list is such a meme, because like early people like don't have the context of everything else. Kinda. I wonder if they would have moved Unholy up from C. Too many A's? I mean, I feel like it's about right. That's usually like most patches will be mostly B's and A's with outliers on each side. That's like how the game's been forever. Hell yeah, we actually got this all out of the way. Now Frank just has to he'll just be editing forever. I have Frank at my house right now. He's staying here until he moves into one of the TL apartments closer to the raid. So I have him locked until he gets done with all of his work. He's not allowed to leave.